Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pointless Top 10 compilation video. This one's all about winter and holiday themed stuff, so things like cozy winter spots, cozy spots, yetis, pine trees, reindeer. There's a few that I reached on, like stained glass because it's like churches, and then chimneys because Santa goes down chimneys, so things like that. So enjoy. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists of the pointless things. Why are we flying by this pointless statue in Booty Bay? Because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 is a location at the top of the mountains in the Storm Song Valley, and they're flying a bunch of kites up here, which I never really thought of flying kites at the top of mountains, but I guess it makes sense. Normally when I think of people flying kites, I think of like, you know, summertime out in the fields and they're running around like, woo, not like we're at the top of this really cold mountain and we're just flying kites around. There's also some gliders. You can take gliders and fly around here too, but I actually think this location's pretty cool. The reason I put it at number 10 is because it doesn't really feel like a true winter spot compared to some of the other ones on the list. Like, you are up in the mountains, there's beautiful skies, like I'm sure they're cold, they got the fire going here, but there's still a bunch of green grass and vibrant life down below, and that's not really something I think of when I think of winter, but I still thought this was like a cool snowy winter type location. So I had to put it on the list, and that's why I put it at number 10. 9. Number 9 is a spot located up in the mountains of Dunmoreau, and it's an area where you go sledding. Well, I mean, you don't personally go sledding, but this pug gets to go sledding. For the most part, it's these dwarves that keep sledding down the mountain, and then they sled all the way down. They got people cheering them on, and then they crash into this little hill at the bottom, and they're like, yeah, woo, let's go again. And then up at the top, you actually have a cave where they got some kegs in there with a fire, so you can just have a drink by the fire. Like, it's honestly just a fantastic place, to the point where I actually think I should have put this higher up on the list, but I already put it at number 9. I feel like this should actually be in the top 5, but you know what? Maybe more people get to see it now because some people are going to click off the video, but now they know there's a dwarf sledding location that's really cozy up in Dunmoreau. Also, hopefully you like this type of pointless top 10 because it's a little more unconventional. It's kind of like a, you know, relaxing spots to go to, or like cool winter areas, a little more role play focused instead of just like top 10 bores or sad NPCs or whatever it might be. I just thought it'd be cool if it was like, hey, you know what? It's winter outside. Maybe you want to celebrate winter in World of Warcraft. Here's some spots you could go to do that. You know what I mean? And so that's why the dwarf sledding location located in Dunmoreau is number 9, but should be higher. 8. Number 8 is in the Storm Song Peaks at the camp of Torseg the Exiled. And just look at this shot, dude. This is just a beautiful landscape picture. You've got all the pine trees covered in snow. You've got the Crystal Song Forest tree out there and the clouds. That's just winter if I've ever seen it. And it's easy to see why Torseg picked this location to set up his little camp at. You got this big fire. He's just laying down here, although it's probably still kind of cold. He's literally laying on the ice, but what an unbelievable view all around him. I mean, I guess he also has to look at the gnolls, but maybe the gnolls set up here because they love the view as well. I also went back and listened to the start of me recording this, and I realized that I said Storm Song Peaks, and I was like, why did I say that? And it's because of Crystal Song Forest right below here. So I combined Storm Peaks with Crystal Song Forest. And I was going to re-record it, but I was like, you know what? I actually think Storm Song Peaks sounds pretty cool. But yeah, I love this location in the Storm Peaks. It truly embodies everything that winter's all about, and that's why I had to put it at number 8. 7. Number 7 is actually 2 spots located in the Azure Span, both involving Tuskar. And as you can already see here, there are Tuskar riding around on baby mammoths, so that already makes this one of the best locations you're going to find in the game. But then there's just this cozy little camp next to this big ice lake where there's this Tuskar kid running around on the ice, and then another Tuskar kid is just fishing. And then one of my favorite parts, which I think are some of the best wintry trees in the game, which are these massive snow-covered pine trees. Some of them are broken off, some just go really high. Like, I just think they're phenomenal. But then later on, I used my engineering port to go to the Azure Span, and I forgot about this entire location of these Tuskar kids that are having snowball fights, and they're building snowmen here, and then they're also going sledding, and these Tuskar kids are just sledding down, being like, woohoo, yeah. And there's even one sled that you can hop onto, and then the Tuskar kid rides it with you, and he's like, wee, and you sled down. It's just, this is actually an amazing spot that I completely forgot about, but I'd already picked the other spot as this, and I was like, you know what? I just gotta include both. I love both these spots. They both deserve to be here, and so that's why the Azure Span Tuskar areas are number 7. 6. Number 6 is the Starfall Village House located in Winter Spring. And there's a few reasons that I really love this location. One of which is I just love the aesthetic and the environments and the landscape all around this house, right? There's the scenic view of the mountains. You can see all the pine trees. You have the snow coming down, and it's just, it feels very much like you're in the depths of winter. There's this little rabbit hopping around. You can even set up a little campfire here, even though there's no actual fire. You can put down your own fire. And I even think the bigger building overlooking all of this kind of reminds me of a hotel in some way, almost like a Disneyland type of thing. So I think it's just very cozy and peaceful. However, the reason this isn't higher up on the list is because this house actually feels a little out of place. Like if you look at the trees, they don't really look like they fit in. It almost looks like the trees came with the house, probably because they did, right? Those look like trees from Azshara. And then there's a little pool of water right by the house as well that you think would be frozen, especially because there's numerous patches of frozen water in Winter Spring outside of the actual hot springs. So it just made it feel a little out of place, but I still love it. I still love the house and the surroundings and everything about it. So that's why I had to put it at number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Waning Glacier. The Waning Glacier is an area in northwestern Tiragard Sound, and it serves as the home for a pack of snowpelt wolves, groups of penguins, and the ever-expanding host of Yeti, led by Wampus. And I thought this would be a cool location to include because it's a little different from all the other winter locations we've looked at. It's a lot more icy. There's melted water. There's these ice caves. It's very much an ice-centric winter location. And there's also a lot of people that are really enjoying this location, one of which is the penguins that are just chilling out in the center of it. There's also a little cave where a bunch of horde people are hanging out. There's also this guy chilling in one of the pools, although I don't know how warm this is. I don't think it's a hot spring like Winter Spring. Maybe he's just taking an ice bath. I don't know. There's a dwarf at a camp with a fire, although the fire looks like it's kind of going out. It's just some coals. And then there's just all the Yetis walking around, which you can learn more about in Pointless Top 10 Yetis. But I just think this is a cool winter location. It's kind of unlike some of the other ones because of all the ice, and so I wanted something a little bit different, and that's why I put it at number 5. 4. Number 4 is this little spot located at the top of the mountains in Dunmurrow. And I know we already talked about the sledding area, but this one kind of reminds me a lot of just leveling through Dunmurrow, if that makes sense. The nighttime, the clouds, the feeling of being cold and the fire lighting the area. I don't know, it just, there's something about nighttime in Dunmurrow that just feels like the embodiment of winter. You know what I mean? Like, I think Dunmurrow does it so well with the dark blue colors and the snow and the mountains and the pine trees. And it just, you walk through Dunmurrow and you just feel like you need to find a fire somewhere soon or you're gonna freeze. And so that's why I picked this little spot up in the mountains where you can kind of see everything, but it's also tucked away. It's by some trees. You got the camps and the fire. It's just very cozy and warm. Well, I say cozy and warm. It's not like it's that cozy and warm. It's just, you know, it's warming you up a little bit after being in the frigid landscape of Dunmurrow. And so for all those reasons, that's why I put it at number 4. 3. Number 3 is the spot located in Frostfire Ridge, and I didn't know if I was going to put Frostfire Ridge on this list because it was just a little too much lava everywhere. You know what I mean? When you think of winter, you normally don't think of lava, and everywhere I'd go in Frostfire Ridge was just a bunch of fire and lava, and I was like, there has to be a spot where I can barely see any of that. And then I found this spot, and I was like, you know what? I actually think this is a really cool winter spot. You have all these dead trees with the snow on them. They're kind of blowing in the wind. You have the open plains with all of these beasts walking around that are kind of built for the winter. You've got this little encampment where they're kind of huddled up and they've got meat and they've got fire and they're just kind of trying to survive out here in the cold. And then you've just got a bunch of bones laying around from things that froze to death out here. And so it's kind of crazy. I went from not having any Frostfire Ridge locations on this list to having one that made it up to number 3. And I mean, just from looking out at these cold, snowy, open plains, I can feel the wind chill just like cutting through you as you stand out there and being like, dude, I got to get to a fire right now. And so I had to put this high up on the list, and that's why I put it at number 3. 2. Number 2 is a location hidden away in the northern part of Winter Spring. And the reason I love this location so much is because you can see the hot springs down below. You can turn one way and see all of these snowy mountains. Then you can turn another way and just see a bunch of pine trees. And I feel like this is the one spot where you can kind of look all around and get so many different variables of winter in Winter Spring. And you know what? Just because it's winter doesn't mean you can't have a picnic. You know, put down your umbrella, put down your picnic basket. You know, people are going to make fun of your umbrella, but hey, you know what? That snow has some glare to it, man. If you've ever been out on a bright sunny day in the snow, you know what I'm talking about. And I say people are going to make fun of you like there's any other people here, but I don't know, the furbolgs might make fun of you. But you know what? Who cares what those furbolgs think? This is about you and relaxing and enjoying winter. And so that's why the Winter Spring mountain spot is number 2. 1. And number 1 is this spot located in Dragonblight. And I was looking all around Dragonblight because I knew I really enjoyed the atmosphere and the scenery there. And then I stumbled across this spot where at first I was like, this isn't really relaxing or scenic. It's a bunch of like dragon bones or the bones of something. And you got these vultures sitting around. But then when I was just sitting at this spot, I was like, I love the way everything looks here. I love the color. I don't know if it's like a filter they put over here, but it's kind of like that aqua green blue color that just really sets the tone for the entire zone. And you got this polar bear walking around. He's having a good time. And the trees, I think, just really are some of the best winter trees I've seen, especially if you sit from this angle and you can see them kind of intertwining and forming this kind of tree cave, you know what I mean? And then you've got these snow-covered rocks nearby, and you even have this frozen waterfall that really shows you how cold it is. And I was like, you know what? Out of all the locations, I think this is the one that makes me feel like I'm in winter. And I was like, I gotta put it at number 1. And so that's why the Dragonblight Forest is number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Wilderland Stags found in the Wild Plains in Valley of the Four Winds. And I picked the Wilderland Stags because I love the markings that they have. They got these cool looking like Hearthstone kind of demon hunter markings on them. Like these stags might just be demon hunters in disguise and we don't even know. I mean, look at this one. He's just, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's trying to be suspicious so that we don't suspect that he's a demon hunter. Or he's just a stag, which is what he'd want us to think. But really though, I like these stags a lot. I think they're cool looking. They have cool antlers. Even their antlers have the markings on it, which is pretty cool. There's just a bunch of them running around over here. And one cool thing I learned about stags is that they are known for their impressive antlers, which are shed and regrown every year, which it's actually pretty insane. I looked it up and it looks straight out of a horror movie. I would not look it up if you're like squeamish or anything. But anyway, that's why the Wilderland Stags are number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Snowfall Elks and the Blighted Elks of Dragonblight. And the Blighted Elks are really just the Snowfall Elks, but they've been diseased by the Scourge. However, I feel like normally when something becomes kind of diseased and blighted, it just becomes like, and it's like falling apart and like deteriorating, but these just kind of look cool. They kind of just look like they're demon possessed or something. I also want to take this opportunity to talk about how caribou, moose, elk, reindeer, and stags are all similar yet different. Apparently, reindeer and caribou are actually the same animal. However, elk versus caribou, elk are actually taller with sharper antlers and typically live in mountainous forests in North America and East Asia, but caribou are found in North America, Europe, Asia, and Greenland. But this also says that reindeer and caribou are the same, but reindeer have sharp pointy antlers, but caribou have tall curved antlers, and reindeer mainly live in the Arctic. But then a stag is a male deer, typically of the red deer species, found in various habitats through Europe, Asia, and North America. So in conclusion, I have absolutely no idea. But this list is kind of pointless anyway, so I mean, they're all kind of the same, right? And that's why the Snowfall Elk and the Blighted Elk are number 9. 8. Number 8 is Redhoof the Ancient, and Redhoof is a stag that's located in Suramar. And Redhoof is a part of a quest where you talk to Mayruna Moonwing, and she says there's a secluded glade along the river's bend to the northeast. There you may find our new ally, an elderly stag named Redhoof. So you then talk to Mythandros Irongrove, and she's like, plant some grass seeds and we'll magically grow them. And you do that, and Redhoof goes over and he digs, and then some flowers start to grow where he was digging, and apparently the flowers that grow are very rare flowers, so Redhoof has blessed us. So not only is this stag some sort of magical, powerful stag, but he's got a big deer family around him as well. As you can see, they're all running around or standing near him or whatever, having a great time. And I just genuinely thought he was a pretty cool stag, so that's why Redhoof the Ancient is number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Elder Shadowhorn Stags, which are located in Ashenvale. And I actually thought this was kind of funny because these are really cool, like Shadowhorn Stags, but they pretty much look similar to the Blighted Stags, but one of those is diseased and like dying, and the other one is like, yo, pretty cool Shadowhorn Stag. I have cool moves like Curse of the Shadowhorn and Shadowhorn Charge. While the Blighted Stags probably have like spread disease. I don't know. But one of the reasons I like them here is it feels like they belong here in Ashenvale, right? They're kind of glowy green eyes and kind of camouflaging in with the environment. I just think they're perfect for Ashenvale. I thought they did a really good job designing these stags for the environment. But again, these may look like Blighted Stags, but they're not. They're cool Elder Shadowhorn Stags, and that's why they're number 7. 6. Number 6 is Grimhorn, and Grimhorn is a stag that's located at the Maw of the Void in Darkshore, and he's actually locked in battle with Kraw's Blood Rage, and the two take turns getting wounded and saved by adventurers. But the reason I picked Grimhorn is that he's a cool looking stag with the skull impaled on his horns, and I guess it's just been stuck there for a while, I have no idea. But I kind of love the fact that he's just kind of chilling here, like, yeah, I killed somebody, and then the orc dude's just like, oh, I'm gonna take you down. You're going down. I'll tell you what. And he's just kind of like, yep. Like, he just looks completely unfazed by this Kraw's Blood Rage guy who's just losing his mind, like, whoa, in a, I guess you could say, blood rage, right? But aside from that, there's nothing really crazy about him, but I think he's pretty cool, so that's why Grimhorn is number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Great Reindeer, and according to the WoW Wiki, the Great Reindeer are stag found in Ironforge and Orgrimmar. Led by the red-nosed reindeer, they pull Great Father Winter's sleigh around the city. All the reindeers, as well as the sleigh, can be ridden. And it is actually pretty cool to see this go around the city or to actually ride it. It's a fun little thing that they added back in Battle for Azeroth. However, as we learned a bit earlier in the video, reindeer and stag are both types of deer, but they have differences. You have reindeer, which are a species of deer found in the Arctic and subarctic regions of the world, also caribou. And stags are male deer of any species, but commonly the red deer. So really, Blizzard has a stag named the red-nosed reindeer, which is just an oxymoron. And I'm pretty sure I'm using the term oxymoron correctly, but if I'm not, someone will yell at me anyway to tell you if I am or not. So, the moral of the story here is that Blizzard needs to hire a deer specialist to fact-check their deer. And that's why the Great Reindeer, I almost forgot we were talking about, is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the plains stags, and not plain stags, but the plains stags, like the open plains. And they are located in the Dark Maul Plains in Exile's Reach. They can also be found spotted walking with a plains doe and numerous other deer. That's when I decided to look up, is a doe a deer? Well, I know a doe is a deer, a female deer, because of that song. However, a male red deer is a stag, but a female red deer is actually called a hind. But I don't know if a hind is also considered a doe. I think I'm about ready to give up on the technicality of deer at this point. But I wanted to put these on the list because I thought the Exile's Reach does a really good job of showing off nature, and it's not really looked at that much. And I thought it's really cool to see them running around almost in a naturalistic habitat. I guess you could say the other things we've looked at are in a natural habitat, but this just feels like they are where they want to be, you know what I mean? And so they're just running around, having a good time, just chilling, and that's why they're number 4. 3. Number 3 is a Thair, and a Thair is a white stag located in Drustvar, and a Thair actually means father in Gaelic. And he's accompanied by a doe named Athane, which translates to bright spark. And he also has some pretty cool lore. It says Thair was befriended by Lord Aram Waycrest during the war against the Drust 2,700 years ago. Aram treated Thair after the aftermath of a Drust attack, and later Thair would save Aram. After the battle, Thair told Aram that he was repaying the kindness showed to him, and that as long as he exists, he shall protect the people of Drustvar should they come to him. Ever since then, the valiant and true have found shelter with the white stag of the forest. And on top of that, if you're a druid, he will actually serve as an innkeeper. So there's a lot of speculation about him as well, saying that he's a type of wild god, and Athane might also be a wild god, but she has the moon above her head while he's got more like sparkles or stars. I don't know, but either way, they're pretty cool, and that's why they're number 3. 2. Number 2 is Gorehorn, and Gorehorn is a stag located at the Glenbrook Hunting Grounds in Drustvar, and I don't know what is on his horns. It looks like things he's killed or meat, or I don't know what it is, but he's cursed and he's got some crazy blue energy flowing through him. And a bunch of doe around him also have that blue energy flowing through them, so there must be some weird curse that they have, because he has a move called Cursed Hoof, so clearly something's going on here, but I'm not gonna lie, I put him on the list because I think he looks awesome. In fact, you can even see the birds above. They're also cursed with the blue energy flowing through them as well, and they're eating people. There's just dead people that they're eating on the ground, so that is also a thing occurring. In fact, looking into it a bit more, it appears he is part of a cursed game hunter achievement where you have to kill a bunch of cursed animals in Drustvar. So I guess he is cursed, which would make sense, but I just think he looks cool, which I think is what I say about everything. But this guy legit looks really cool, so that's why He's number 2. 1. And number 1 is Metzen the reindeer. And Metzen the reindeer is clearly named after Chris Metzen, and he has been captured by the abominable Grinch outside of the Growlous Cave in Hillsbrad. And back in the day, he was kidnapped during the Feast of Wintervale by both the Dark Irons of Searing Gorge and the South Sea Freebooters of Tanaris, and he could be freed using a pouch of reindeer dust. But after the Cataclysm, that is when the Grinch and the Alterac Mountains started capturing him instead. Which, when you think about it, it's crazy how every year the Grinch just keeps capturing him. He just goes out, finds Metzen the reindeer, captures him, and then you have to go save him again every year. You would think they'd get a little better at hiding Metzen, or Metzen get better at escaping, or they'd put him in different places, but I'm not in charge of Metzen the reindeer security. I'm just out here offering my backseat advice, so maybe they do know more than me. Maybe the Grinch is actually really good at finding him no matter where they put him. I don't know. But what I do know is that Metzen the reindeer is one of the most famous reindeers in all of World of Warcraft, if not the most famous reindeer, and that's why he's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the pine trees in Mount Hyjal, and I picked these trees because they are pretty cool and I like them, but they're on fire. And not like the good NBA Jam kind where it's like, you're on fire. Like, they're literally on fire. They're burning down. It's not good. And the reason they're on fire is because Deathwing unleashed Ragnaros and all of his minions on the land, and then there's the Twilight Hammer helping him burn stuff down. It's just a bunch of chaos. But another reason I like these pine trees is they were made right when I think they started doing a little bit crazier graphics. Like, they just had Wrath of the Lich King, so things were starting to get upgraded. But I think Cataclysm really started pushing things forward on a graphical front. But they're still a little bit old school, right? They got that kind of blocky, old, low polygon texture, but there's something very charming about that still, right? So that's why the Mount Hyjal pine trees are number 10. 9. Number 9 is the Silver Pine Forest, and how could I not include a place that is literally named after pine trees? And I never really knew the lore behind Silver Pine Forest, but apparently the Dreadlord Cathra Natir escaped Dalaran and then brought a blight of locusts to destroy the trees and ravage the cropland. The Scourge had also set fire to the crops, and the plague of undeath began to affect the trees, making them pale and lifeless, just like the World of Warcraft player base. So, you know, now that I think about it, number 10 was a bunch of burning pine trees, and now number 9 is a bunch of sick and dying pine trees. But that's all right. That's why they're lower down on the list. Although this is pointless top 10, so maybe they should be higher up on the list. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a big, creepy pine tree forest, and that's cool enough for me to put it at number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Storm Peaks pine trees, and these are where they really start to differentiate from some of the trees we've already seen. A lot of these pine trees feel more rounded, and they almost feel like they're weighed down by the snow, which would make sense because there's a lot of snow. In fact, I thought we could take the time right now to learn the difference between pine, spruce, and fir, because there's like 3 different types of pine trees. In fact, there's probably more types of pine trees, but these are the 3 primary ones that people know about. So pine trees are where the needles attached in clusters of 2, 3, or 5. Spruce trees are where the needles attached individually. The needles are sharply pointed, square, and easy to roll between your fingers, and needles are attached to small stalk-like woody projections that remain when needles shed. And then finally, fir trees are where the needles are attached individually, and the needles are softer, flat, and cannot be rolled between your fingers. So which type of trees are these Storm Peak trees, you might ask? And I would say, I have absolutely no idea. But they do look cool, and that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 are the pine trees at the Alpine Rise, and I actually love these pine trees because they kind of remind me of like a Dr. Seuss The Grinch movie. Like if you look at them, they're like kind of wonky and wavy. I don't know why. There's like no real backstory about the Alpine Rise that I could find, but I really just love the way they look. I also want to bring this up now because I know someone's going to mention this. So there's conifers and evergreens. And so all these types of trees we just mentioned, the pine tree, the spruce tree, the fir tree, those are all evergreens. And evergreen refers to the nature of the tree's leaves. So they're called evergreen because they're green all year long. But conifers just means cone bearers. So if the tree creates cones, then it's a conifer. So while most conifers are evergreen, not all evergreen are conifers. It's kind of like how not all turtles are tortoises, but all tortoises are turtles, which I'm sure you remember learning in Pointless Top 10 Turtles in World of Warcraft. But anyway, I love these wacky Dr. Seuss-esque pine trees. trees, and that's why they're number 7. 6. Number 6 are the pine trees in the Hillsborough foothills, and I think whenever I think of pine trees, this is one of the places that stands out in my head because there's such a wide variety of pine trees in this place, right? There's red and orange and yellow and green, and there's so many different colors of pine trees. However, I was thinking about this and I was like, wait, but aren't these evergreens? You know what I mean? So I'm like, why aren't they staying green? Well, I looked it up, and apparently there are pine trees that have what normal trees do, where they turn yellow and then their needles fall off and then new needles appear. But there's also pine trees that have disease or are sick and stuff like that, or overwatering, and then they also change color. But also, this is a video game, and things aren't real in video games, which might blow your mind. But like I said before, I do love the wide variety of colors of pine trees here. I always think of this zone when I think of pine trees, and it's a very relaxing place. So that's why Hillsborough foothill pine trees are number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Stormheim pine trees, and this one feels like Hillsborough a little bit, but on steroids. Like, the amount of crazy autumnal trees that are here is just out of this world. Like, look at the density of all these trees, right? There's so many different colors, and they're just kind of packed together and all up in the mountains and everything. In fact, I was going to put Azshara on this list, but I didn't realize there were so many pine trees in this game, and I ended up having a list of like 20 pine trees, and I was like, dude, this is insane. I have to like whittle this down. And once I did that, I realized that Stormheim just felt like a more modern Azshara, and so I just had to put it on this list. So still, shout out to Azshara for having some great pine trees and aesthetic, but Stormheim just does it so well, man. And I think it has to have the biggest variety of red, yellow, orange, and green trees that you can find in a zone. And for that reason alone, Stormheim pine trees are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Zuuldrak pine trees, and these are some of the most unique pine trees that I didn't even expect to find because I was just flying around Northrend being like, I'll go check Zuuldrak. I don't remember pine trees being there. And then lo and behold, I was like, dude, these pine trees are insane. These are awesome. Some of the trees are very blue and white. Some are more white than blue. There's also these really reddish pink-white trees. It's just they have this very unique style to them, and they have these little hooks coming off the trees as well, and I think they're supposed to be branches. They're these little like hook branches. You can kind of see them if you look close, but I haven't really seen anything like those in the game before. Something else that's cool that I found on the WoW wiki is the trees of Zuuldrak are known as thornwood trees, and their dead roots are capable of resisting moisture as they are great for firewood. Although there are some other types of trees here, so those might just be different types of trees, not the actual pine trees. But either way, these are some really cool trees. I like them a lot, and that's why the Zuuldrak pine trees are number 4. 3. And number 3 are the pine trees in the Grizzly Hills. And you knew I was going to put Grizzly Hills on this list. I mean, it's got one of the biggest pine tree populations in all of World of Warcraft. I almost said in the United States. It's got the biggest pine tree population in all of America, Grizzly Hills does. I mean, it's got pine trees by the water, it's got pine trees on the mountains, it's got pine trees in the forest, it's got pine trees in the snow. I mean, there are literally just pine trees all over. I don't know if the actual big tree, the big, Andrasil, if that is actually a pine tree, so I'm not going to include it in this list, but if it is, that may be the biggest pine tree in the game. Actually, I guess the big tree is called Vordrasil. It used to be Andrasil, which meant crown of snow, but now it's Vordrasil, which means broken crown in Darnassian. But back on topic to the Grizzly Hills pine trees, I think these pine trees are strong, they're tall, they're very healthy, and they feel very much like a pine tree in its prime. And I feel like Grizzly Hills is the perfect place for the pine trees to live. And that's why Grizzly Hills pine trees are number 3. 2. And number 2 are the pine trees in the Azure Span, and these are probably the best pine trees in World of Warcraft, mainly because they are the newest pine trees in World of Warcraft, and the zone is just so big that you have such a wide variety of pine trees just all over the place. And you can see from the start of the video up till now, like the amount that these pine trees have progressed in terms of like polygon counts and details. In fact, it almost feels like the Azure Span has taken all of the pine trees we've already seen and like put them into one zone because it's so big. And then there's a bunch of new pine trees, like these crazy crystal magical pink pine trees. And I know there might be some people complaining, being like, oh, they're reusing old assets for some of these trees, but I think that's phenomenal because you're reusing old assets, but they're also adding in new trees. Like they're just doing a blend of both. And I think it's great because it calls back to some of those old zones we've seen, but it also adds something new. Plus in nature, there's a blend of a bunch of trees all over the place. I think in the grand scheme of things, I just really love the Azure Span. Plus the Tuskar are here, plus my NPC is here. There's just so much to love about this place. And that's why the pine trees in the Azure Span are number 2. 1. And number 1 are the Winter Spring pine trees. And I know they may not be the best looking pine trees in the game, but when I think of pine trees, this is the place I think of. I just think of those classic, old, Christmas looking pine trees with the snow on them. And as old as they may be, they just feel like the most pine tree in the game. If that makes sense, the most pine tree, right? They just feel very full, very alive, very Christmassy and wintry. I don't know. It's just, there's something about them. Maybe it's because it's in Winter Spring as well. That might be doing it. Something cool I learned from the WoW wiki while reading about Winter Spring was the trees of Winter Spring were bent and twisted into odd positions during the climactic battle of Mount Hyjal. Many of the world trees' massive roots are also exposed here, towering overhead like massive oak archways. Although that doesn't really tie into the pine trees, but whatever, we're talking about trees right now. But like I mentioned earlier, you know, they may not be the most visually appealing, but to me, they're the best pine trees, and that's why the Winter Spring pine trees are number 1. 10. Number 10 is Shatterhorn, and Shatterhorn is a Yeti found in Frostblade Peak in the Howling Fjord. And the reason I love Shatterhorn is because he is literally the Snorlax of World of Warcraft. And Foreman Kobe is like, hey, my men are trying to mine ore for weapons, but a giant Yeti invaded the mine and he's blocking the tunnel. We need to expand. We've tried yelling at him and smoking him out, but nothing's working. So his idea is you go get a bunch of meat from the Frosthorn rams, and that'll be a good enough meal to wake him up, apparently. And so you go do that, you get the ram meat, you put it down in front of him, and he wakes up and he goes, and he starts attacking you, which I don't know why, because you're giving him food. You'd think he'd be like, awesome, ram meat, but he's just mad at you. I guess because you're invading his cave that he's sleeping in, and you woke him up from sleeping. There's plenty of people where if you wake him up from sleeping, they're going to be like, ugh. But I really do love this guy. I mean, he's just sitting there blocking the cave. Like I said earlier, he is Snorlax, and so that's why Shatterhorn is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Chomp Chomp, and I picked Chomp Chomp, 1, because of his name. Chomp Chomp's a phenomenal name. And 2, he's part of this quest with the Hosen called the Lederhosen, which is a reference to Lederhosen, the, like, you know, the German garment. And so the big part of the quest is that you send in this goat to scare away Chomp Chomp, and then he runs through the wall and he's like, and then the Ook of Duke says, no, Wicket stole my Chomp Chomp. You bunch of dukers. You might be like, Crendor, why aren't you showing us this quest? That's because this is part of a 67-part quest chain that I'm not about to redo. Listen, I love this series, but I'm not about to do 66 quests just so a goat can run around so you can see the Yeti run through a wall. You could just go look it up or use your imagination. But Chomp Chomp is a fantastic Yeti, wonderful name, and I hope he's having a great time being free in the mountains. In the mountains. And that's why he's number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Yetis of Dunmoreau, and I think a lot of people think of these Yetis when they think of Dunmoreau, because most people do the quest around like level 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it might be, but they're actually Wendigos. So on WoWWiki, it says they are large furry horned humanoids similar to Yeti and Sasquatch. So I guess they're not technically a Yeti, but I'm not about to do a pointless top 10 Wendigos because I don't even think there are 10, or if there are, I don't even know. And there's like one Sasquatch in the game, which is Big Fist in the Gorduni Outpost in Feralis. So, listen, I'm just saying they're Yetis. This list is already pointless, you know what I mean? So they're Yetis in my mind. So they walk around in Dunmoreau, they got their big ice cave, and according to the WoW Wiki again, Wendigo, along with ice trolls, were among the races enslaved by the newly created Lich King shortly after the Frozen Throne crashed into the Ice-Crowned Glacier. After the end of the Second War, a group of dead Wendigos was found by Coriol Straz in the Nexus. So there you go, a little bit of lore right there, but I always remember him out of nostalgia, and that's really why I wanted to put him on the list, and that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 is Ice Howl, and Ice Howl is the raid boss in the Argent Tournament that is sleeping outside in the Argent Tournament grounds. He's like pinned down, just sleeping out there. And I think it looks like they're guarding him to make sure he doesn't wake up and go crazy. But I forgot that Ice Howl's actually a Hearthstone card as well. I'm sure a lot of people did. And it says on the Ice Howl flavor text, this massive Yeti just closes his eyes and charges at the nearest target. Which is very true, because when you go into this raid and he shows up, he is straight up charging at you. Like, look at that speed. He is like, bleh. But obviously Ice Howl is one of the most well-known Yetis because most people have done the Argent Tournament, and you know, whether that's a good or a bad thing in your mind, you know, people remember him, right? So Ice Howl, I think, deserves to be on this list of the top 10 Yetis, and that's why he's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Whomper, and Whomper is a small baby Yeti, or Wendigo, I mean, either one. He's really the only baby of, like, any of these things in the game, and he's actually the 2018 charity pet. According to the BattleNet shop, it says, meet Whomper, the wandering young Yeti from the snowy passes of Drustvar, ready to melt the coldest of hearts. He stands up atop 2 enormous feet, prepared to rock along and join you on your adventure throughout Azeroth. So actually, look at that. They called him a Yeti, even though they say he's a Wendigo. Look at that. I don't even know. But it says Whomper's a playful baby Wendigo who sometimes trips over his own overly large feet. And when he wants to play, he will give you a playful headbutt. But he's just a little guy, man. He's just a little guy. He likes to walk around. He's got his big feet. And like I was mentioning earlier, it seems like he's the only baby Yeti in the game. Like, I haven't seen any baby Yetis walking around anywhere. Like, he is the only one. So for that reason alone, I think he should be on the list. But that's why I put him a bit higher on the list, because he's obviously a rare Yeti and he's very cute. So that's why Whomper is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Vagash, and Vagash is the Yeti Wendigo mob that overlooks the Amberstill Ranch in Dunmurrow, and he's actually the one that terrorizes the local farms and ram herds. So because of this, Rudra Amberstill wants you to slay the beast and bring her one of his fangs as proof. And I always remember this quest because back in Classic WoW, he was an elite mob, so you needed a group to do this, and especially playing hardcore WoW, you very much needed a group to do this, because this was like, oh boy, we got to go take down the elite Yeti, you know what I mean? But another thing I realized is this guy's been changed like 5 times throughout history. So back in patch 1.2, Vagash in Dunmurrow properly shows his elite status. In Burning Crusade, he was no longer elite. In Cataclysm, his level was reduced from 11 to 9, and he was no longer skinnable. And in Legion, he got the model updated, and he scaled from levels 5 to 21. So he's actually been changed quite a bit over the years. And so with all those things considered, I thought that number 5 was a good spot for Vagash, and that's why he's number 5. 4. Number 4 is Yetimus the Yeti Lord. And how could I not put the Yeti Lord on this list? So he is a big brown Yeti located in the Hillsbred foothills, and according to the quest, Yetimus the Yeti Lord, it says, for years, the mountain Yeti of this region have been allowed free reign. Our complacency in dealing with the Yeti menace has resulted in an aberration. Yetimus, Lord of all Yetis, has grown to a size and strength that our guards simply cannot handle. We fear that should his appetite lead him near Tarn Mill, he would devour us all. Gather a party and dispatch the beast. He roams the countryside to the west. And so in researching this, a lot of people are like, this guy's really hard to kill. It should say like 5 players specifically needed. This is wild. But like, obvious, like this dude's the Yeti Lord. Like, what do you expect? It's not like the Yeti Knight. It's not like the Yeti Servant. It's not like just some random guy. This is the Lord of Yetis. Like, he's gonna be difficult. I don't know why people are complaining. You know what I mean? I don't know. That was just something I read that bothered me for some reason. I was like, this dude's the Lord of Yetis. Like, he's gonna be difficult. Either way, that's why Yetimus the Yeti Lord is number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Feral and Rage Scar Yetis of Feralis. And these are some of the Yetis that I always think of when I think of Yetis, because I remember being in Feralis and getting the Yeti hides for the quests and doing all these different things, but I actually found out there's some interesting stuff about the Feral and Rage Scar Yetis. So the Feral Scar is a tribe of Yetis, and their leader is also named Feral Scar, and in the past, several Feral Scar Yetis fought against Varian Rin in Dire Maul. Since the Cataclysm, the Feral Scar Yetis flourished, and their hide was thought to have become stronger compared to several years ago. Meanwhile, the Rage Scar are a group of Yetis also in Feralis, and the bulk of the population lives in Rage Scar Hold. These Yetis were the finest source of leather in all of Feralis, and their pelts, when given a special treatment, are as resilient as iron. However, the Emerald Nightmare's corruption has affected these Yetis as well, leaving their pelts weak and rotted in places. But reading that just blew my mind, because I was like, dude, I always remember getting the thick Yeti hides, but to realize that they're as strong as iron? Like, that's actually pretty insane. It puts into perspective why everybody wanted to get these Yeti hides, because you're essentially just making iron armor out of it. But either way, these are some of the most well-known Yetis in World of Warcraft. They got some very rare hides, and they've got some cool backstories. So that's why the Feral Scar and Rage Scar Yetis are number 3. 2. Number 2 are the Winter's Veil Yetis, which are the Abominable Grinch and Grumpus. So the Abominable Grinch is clearly a reference to the Grinch, the Dr. Seuss character, and he is also the one who steals Metzen the reindeer, which I covered in Pointless Top 10 Reindeer last week. He's located in the Alterac Mountains, and it also says that he is known to attack travelers passing through the mountains, taking their entire food supply, according to the WoW Wiki. It's also one of the reasons the Smoky Wood pastors are so fed up with the Grinch, because they make use of the mountain routes to transport their goods, and then the Grinch gets in the way, and then obviously they lose money, they lose resources, and so obviously they're upset. Now on the other side, Grumpus is a giant yeti that is in the Frostfire Ridge, and according to the WoW Wiki, one of Draenor's oldest stories is the legend of Grumpus. The story tells of a mean-spirited brute that would come in the night in the dead of winter and kidnap children that misbehaved. Back at his lair, he would present them with awful toys and use their tears to spawn his minions. But Grumpus is no legend, he's quite real. No one quite knows when the legend of Grumpus began in Draenor, but his toys are just the worst. Like, what toys is he giving out? Is he giving out, like, evil Furbies or something? Like, I don't know. But anyway, Grumpus is actually a reference to Krampus, which is the horned anthropomorphic figure in Alpine folklore who appeared during the Christmas season to punish misbehaving children, which seems like it's much worse than getting coal in your stocking. But with all that put aside, the Abominable Grinch and Grumpus are two of the most famous Yetis in World of Warcraft, and they always come back every year for the Winter's Veil festivities, and that's why they're number 2. 1. And number 1 is Koda Khan. And Koda Khan is a Yeti up in the Kunlai summit that goes crazy after you give her Kaffa, or Kaffa, I don't know which one it is, but it's coffee. And one of the Grumbles says, Koda Khan wants more Kaffa, but I already fed her all that I have. Then I tried giving her a nice bow, but she's not satisfied. And then he says, I think she can smell the Kaffa I drank for breakfast. But I don't know how I never knew this quest was in the game. A quest where you help the Grumbles with a Yeti by getting it coffee? Like, how did I not know this? I guess I just breezed through it when I was leveling back in Pandaria, but this quest is phenomenal. And then you get to ride around on Koda Khan while she smashes a bunch of Hosen, very likely in a caffeine-induced rage. So in the grand scheme of things, this is a quest about giving coffee to a Yeti that then has a bow and smashes Hosen for the Grummels. How could I not put this at number 1? And that's why Koda Khan is number 1. 10. Number 10 is this cozy spot located in the Dream Grove, which is the Druid class hall. And this specific spot is kind of like a library, cafe, hangout area. I'm actually not too sure what it is exactly. There's also some beds around here, so I mean, this could just be a place to rest or relax or really just anything. And in the middle, there's this big tree, and I think the tree is really what does it for me. I mean, there actually are other trees in this place. You can see them around the outside. There's like, you know, between the books and between the beds and stuff like that. But I really love the tree being in the center, and you got all the little plants around there and the little green fairy butterfly thing just flapping around. And then you also have all the little night elf lanterns just hanging around as well. It's just, I don't know, it's a very relaxing area. It's like you could read a book, you could take a nap, you could eat some food, you could write, I don't know. You write whatever you want. But yeah, I just really love this vibe here. It's just almost like they've brought nature inside. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? You're inside, but it feels like you're outside, and you can read a book, you could chill, you could go to sleep, like whatever. It's great. So that's why the Druid Class Hall Dream Grove room, I actually don't know what to call this, is number 10. 9. Number 9 is this camp located at the Tidebreak Summit in the Stormsong Valley. And this one is especially cozy for people that love rain, because even if it's not raining anywhere else in Stormsong Valley, if you come to this location, it starts raining. I don't know if that's intended, I don't know if it's accidental and Blizzard just messed up, but it's very cozy. So if you really like rain, come on down to this spot, and it's just constant rain. And you've even got a little campfire here. You've got this big tent you can go in. I mean, you can put another campfire in this tent if you want. It's got a table and chair, and there's some weapons and a telescope and notes scattered all about, which I guess that might be less cozy, being like, who was here? Why did they abandon this place? You know, there's still half-eaten food here and like boots, and there's potions and stuff laying about and a compass. I'm like, did something attack people here? But there's no way that would happen, right? This is too cozy of a spot. So let's just forget all that and just really appreciate this as a nice cozy spot. In fact, there's a little river nearby. You can go fishing if you want, or just sit by the river and enjoy all the sounds of the rain and the water. It's a fantastic cozy spot. So that's why the Tidebreak Summit Camp is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Grizzlemaw, and Grizzlemaw is the Furbolg city located in the center of Grizzly Hills in Northrend. And I would actually have this higher up on the list, but I feel like all of the Furbolgs fighting all over makes this not as cozy. In fact, some would say this really isn't cozy because of the Furbolgs, but I don't care. I think this whole area, if you take the furbolgs fighting out of here, is insanely cozy. You're inside of a tree. There's all these glowing things all around. You have all of the furbolg houses, like apartments scattered all about. And then you have the inside of the tree where you have this little cave area and there's a bunch of furbolg totems here. It's pretty cozy if you remove the furbolgs. But for me, the thing about this place really is the vibes. You've got that cozy kind of warm lighting from these beehive lights, which I hope they give us beehive lantern lights in player housing. And you got all the little windows and all the little houses, and just being inside of a tree in the Grizzly Hills, like, it's just pure vibes, man. And so I had to put this on the list because I've always thought this was just a cozy place, and I was like, it was the perfect video to do it. And so that's why I put Grizzlemaw at number 8. 7. For number 7, we go back to Val'sharah, but this time not in the Druid class hall, but just out in the wild, specifically behind this big tree where there's this little picnic area set up. And so for me, not only is this little picnic area very cozy, right? It's kind of tucked away in nature behind a tree. They've set up some pillows. They got some food here. But just the actual whole area in general is very cozy, right? Like, you could just walk around this whole Val'sharah area with the plants and the trees and the flowers and the waterfalls and just the water in general, right? And it's just very cozy, very relaxing. It's going to lower your blood pressure just walking around here. But then if you really want to get cozy, you just go behind this tree. You got this little picnic area set up. Perfect type of role player spot, right? I mean, you do have Cenarius here initially, but I think after you do some questing, he does leave. And if he doesn't leave, I mean, you could just pretend he's having a nap. He's having a relaxing time. He's so relaxed that he just passed out. And they're like, man, dude, he is really relaxed, right? But yeah, overall, this is a very cozy spot hidden away in Val'sharah. And so that's why I decided to put it at number 7. 6. Number 6 is this cozy Borealis fire pit, and I actually really like this area. I didn't really notice it until last year. I made a video for the official World of Warcraft YouTube channel about celebrating New Year's Eve in World of Warcraft, and I was looking for places and being like, what would be a cool place to like celebrate New Year's Eve, and looking for all this stuff. And then I came across this fire pit area and I was like, dude, I didn't even know this was here. Like, genuinely, I didn't know this was here. There's like a bunch of pillows you can sit on. There's like some couches, and it's just this fire pit area. Like, it's a legit, really nice, cozy area. I will say, I think this is the type of area you probably go to at nighttime, right? Because usually, you know, big fire, lighten up the area, cozy vibes. You want to sit down, have like a, you know, something to drink, and then you could chill out by the fire. But during the daytime, it's just like, you know, there's a fire over here. Like, it's still cool, but I think nighttime is what provides the best cozy vibes for this area. So yeah, this might not be the craziest area on the list, but it's definitely one of the coziest and most unknown areas on this list. And that's why the Bonfire Borealis area is number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Rangari Enclave and the Path of Light, located in Draenor Shadowmoon Valley. And this is a pretty big cozy spot. In fact, this might be the biggest area for cozy spots on the list, but it is really cozy. So first we have the Path of Light area. There's this big tree here. It's like this garden area, and you can sit around the big tree and relax, and just the lighting and the sky and just everything feels so cozy and relaxing. And then you've got the waterfalls in the Path of Light, like on the sides of the Path of Light, which I think are really cool as well. And it leads to a bunch of other types of garden spots where you could chill out. So there's actually numerous little garden areas all around here, which is really nice. And then we have the Rangari Enclave area, which I really like because it gives me the Zanger Marsh vibes. And I wanted to put Zanger Marsh on this list, and I was flying around and I was like, you know, I really like Zanger Marsh, but I couldn't find like a specific cozy spot that really hit me. And then I came here and I was like, dude, this is it. It just gave me like modern Zangar Marsh vibes mixed with the Shadowmoon Valley stuff. There's fishing and boats and little food stands and just the big mushrooms overhead. Like, it's just so cozy. And so yeah, like I mentioned earlier, if you just want a cozy area in general, not just like some little spot, this is a fantastic place to come to. And so that's why the Path of Light and Rangari Enclave are number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Dalaran Portrait Room area, and I'm pretty sure nobody had this on their list of things they expected to be in a cozy spots, but I really do love this area. I mean, it really gives me convention center lobby vibes. I don't know if anyone else gets that, but you know, there's a bunch of little areas to hang out and sit around, drink coffee. There's some cool side rooms with big library walls, like massive library walls, where it's just books upon books. You go like grab a book and then sit down on a bench and read, or you could grab a book, maybe go out into the lobby area, sit down on the couch, have some coffee. You know, take in the vibes of like, you got the big chandelier up there, the magical chandelier spinning around. You got some cool architecture stuff all around. Or you could just stay in the actual library area. There's a bunch of books all over. There's little tables and stuff you could sit at. Like, it's got some really nice cozy spots. But yeah, I love the Dalaran portrait room area. I'd say it's pretty underappreciated because it's kind of hidden away. You know, you only really go there if you have quests or you're trying to get somewhere. And I think not enough people stop and really appreciate it. And so that's why the Dalaran portrait room is number 4. Number 3 is 2 locations in the Azure Span. And I knew I wanted to put an Azure Span location on the list, and I was flying around specifically in the winter area because I always love winter areas. There's like Winter Spring, right? There's Dun Moreau, but Azure Span was a little newer. It's like all these big pine trees and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, dude, there's got to be some cozy spots here, right? So one of them is this little Tuskar camp, and there's a kid rolling a big snowball around. There's a bunch of Tuskar fishing, and it's just a really nice secluded area. You're by some cliffs, and you have all the big winter pine trees all around surrounding you. It's just a really cozy spot. But speaking of big pine trees, the other location is actually inside the trees themselves. And as soon as I saw these, I was like, dude, this is perfect. This is a nice cozy spot. You could start a fire inside this tree, and you're not going to burn the tree down because, you know, it's a video game. And really, the other relaxing part is that it's always snowing here. Like, whether it's daytime or nighttime, it always has that overcast snow going on. In fact, the birds agree. This is a fantastic cozy spot because they actually made a nest up here, and they're actually guarding a dragonflight treasure that you can acquire if you find this place. But I don't know if anybody still wants dragonflight treasure, but there you go. You can find one. But yeah, overall, Azure Span is probably one of the coziest zones in the game, but these are just a couple of my favorite spots, and so that's why they're number 3. Number 2 is the Suramar Menagerie, and this is one of the places I didn't even realize until I played Legion Remix, and I was just flying around doing Legion Remix stuff, and I was like, yo, this is actually really cool. You know, it's like walking through a zoo. You've got a bunch of different animals here. There's birds, there's dinosaurs, like there's a whole bunch of stuff, and you can just walk through. I think one of the best things you can do is actually just roleplay walk. Just put your roleplay walk on and just kind of casually stroll through. You can see all the goats. There's polar bears here. There's tigers. Like, there's a whole bunch of creatures here. Now, I will say, I was looking into this more, and apparently there's quests where you have to free the animals from here. So, dude, I swear, like, every time I'm like, this looks like a fun, cozy spot. There's either, like, furbolgs fighting each other. There's, like, the Cozy Storm Peaks tent, but it looks like somebody got attacked there or something. And now there's, like, people trying to free the animals. I just thought it was, like, a friendly zoo, but they're like, no, they're, like, trapping them and torturing them here. I don't think they're torturing them, but, like, I guess they're just trapping them. But, like, I don't know, man. I just think it's a cozy menagerie zoo area. So I would say just use your imagination. Come here and be like, hey, this is a nice Suramar zoo where they're treating all the animals well, and I'm going to walk through and appreciate the vibes and the colors and, you know, all the cool stuff. Just do that. But yeah, aside from all that, this is a really cool, cozy, unique type of area in World of Warcraft. So I just really wanted to put it on the list, and that's why the Suramar Menagerie is number 2. And number 1 are the taverns located at Goldshire and Keranos. And I was trying to put both of these on the list, and at one point I was like, you know what? I'm just going to combine these because to me, these are both very similar, right? They're both kind of in starting zone areas, and they both are, you know, very cozy in their own way. One is like you're out in the snow and you got to get out of the snow into the warmth, and you have a drink by the fire, and it's very dwarven, and it really gives you that cozy winter vibe. And then you've got the Goldshire Tavern, which, you know, it may not be snowing outside, but you can really come here at any point. It's got that fantasy tavern vibe where, you know, it gives those like Lord of the Rings vibes of like chilling in the tavern by the fireplace, and you got the upstairs with the beds where you can stay, and you got the downstairs with all the people eating and drinking and having a good time. And it's just, these just feel like some of the coziest places in World of Warcraft. And like I said, I was trying to figure out which one to put on the list or put both on the list. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to combine them here because they're very similar in their own way, but also, you know, a little bit different, but not too much. And so that's why I decided to put the Keranos and the Goldshire Taverns at number 1. Number 10 are the chimneys located at Bradensbrook Village in Valshara. And there's nothing really wacky about these chimneys. They're shaped a little off, but they are made out of brick. You know, these are like standard chimneys you'd probably see somewhere in Europe. And it looks like they're a bit worn down. They've got some rust on the metal parts. And this got me intrigued about the parts of a chimney. I was like, what are the parts of a chimney called? And dude, chimneys actually have so many parts, it kind of blew my mind. I was like, it's probably just like the tall part, the whatever. There's like the chimney flue, the liner, the cap, the flashing, the crown, the damper, the smoke chamber, and then there's like other parts, but these were just like the simplistic basic parts that I found on a website. I just never really thought chimneys were that complex, but I guess it makes sense because I mean, they're preventing house fires and like carbon monoxide from building up. So you probably would want some complexity in the structure that's doing those things. And you know what? The Bradensbrook chimneys are doing just that. And so that's why they're number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Dalaran chimneys, specifically the chimneys located in the forge areas. There's the one that's by the actual forge where you learn blacksmithing and stuff, and then there's one that's by the big demon forge, which was relevant in Legion, but is no longer relevant. And so each of these chimneys actually got pretty cool little designs on them. The one above the demon forge looks like it's got some weird bolts and some weird, I don't know what you would call these, like melding points or like points where the plates connect. I don't know what it is, but they look pretty cool and they've got little engravings on them. And this one actually reminds me more of a Dr. Seuss type of chimney. You know, it's all kind of wibbly wobbly. And then there's the main chimney, which is attached to the side of the building. And you can see it's this large chimney structure with more of what I was just talking about, the like plate connections and the designs, but on a much bigger scale, because obviously this chimney is like 4 times as big as the other chimney. And then it has a big, would this be the crown of the chimney or the top of the chimney, right? You got that little brick part. Yeah, I think it's the crown. I think I'm right. But yeah, I really like these chimneys. They're pretty unique. They're right next to each other, so I just put them together. And so that's why the Dalaran chimneys are number 9. 8. Number 8 are the human chimneys. And these are the chimneys that are just kind of located all around the human starting zone areas. So places like Elwyn Forest or Duskwood or Westfall or Red Ridge, right? A lot of these places have these styles of chimneys, and it's clear that these were probably some of the earliest chimney designs we've seen in World of Warcraft. And I think my favorite one out of all these is probably the Human Forge chimney, which is just a larger chimney that's square, and then you can see inside the grate at the top these flames that are kind of going on inside. So I think that's probably my favorite one. But the other ones are pretty cool as well. I mean, this big brick chimney attached to the Goldshire Inn, I think, is probably my second favorite. This other brick chimney at the Elwyn Forest houses looks kind of like the Bradensbrook one, but a little more outdated comparatively. And then the one in Westfall's got some curves going on, and then the smokestack part at the top's not really centered. It's like off to the side, so that's kind of a cool one. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, Santha would love to go down any of these chimneys, and so that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 is the chimney located in the starting area of the gnomes and dwarves in classic World of Warcraft Dun Morogh. And it's a bit of a weird chimney because if you look at it from the top down, you can see that there's snow in it, so it almost looks like it's clogged, but there is smoke coming out of it. So I mean, it is working, it is doing its job, but then if you look on the inside, you'll see that there is this big fire, and it's actually a really cool little fireplace area. And the smoke is rising up, but it's kind of blocked off. So it really feels like it was just a graphical limitation from back in the day. Maybe they couldn't have the chimney here opened up and people seeing in because it would create stress on computers. Like, there has to be something behind why they wouldn't just leave this area for the smoke to come out of opened, right? But no matter the case, this is a really cool chimney. It's a very cozy area up in the mountains and the snow everywhere. So I like it a lot, and that's why I decided to put it at number 7. 6. Number 6 are the metal goblin chimneys located in Everlook in Winterspring. And I like these for a few reasons, one of which is they're off to the side. You can see they kind of go off to the side and then curve up, and they almost look like a little mage tower. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, dude, it's like a little mage tower. You got the smoke coming out of it, but I don't really think they got any fires going on, because if you look in the buildings, there's not really any fire. So I was like, what are they? Is this like exhaust or something? And I think it is, because obviously it's goblins. They have a whole bunch of engineering power, and you know, they're probably burning fuel in some sort of way, maybe to keep the buildings warm, because we are in winter spring, it's cold, and maybe the walls are insulated with crazy mechanical engineering bits. And listen, I have no idea. I don't know how it works, but that's the only thing I could think of. And it also made me remember that not all chimneys are just for fireplaces, right? Like when I looked it up, it says a chimney is a ventilation structure made of masonry, clay, or metal that isolates hot, toxic exhaust gases or smoke produced by a boiler, stove, furnace, incinerator, or fireplace from human living areas, or I guess in this case, goblin. And so for all those reasons, that's why I put them at number 6. 5. Speaking of toxic exhaust gases, we've got this location in the Barrens. And so number 5 is a combination of these big oil devices as well as this large forge that's the similar forge to the one in Orgrimmar, but I found that out here as well. So I was like, hey, I could just combine these right together because they're right next to each other. And so unlike the gnome dwarf starting area chimney that we saw at number 7, this one actually does open up and you can see out into the world. Well, you can kind of see there's a bunch of flames and fire and smoke blocking, but you know, you can see for the most part. And then you've got these big goblin oil smokestack things, which almost look like horns. It looks like a really big horn that someone stuck into the ground, you know what I mean? And so these tall goblin chimneys are technically called smokestacks, and it's one of those things where all smokestacks are chimneys, but not all chimneys are smokestacks. It's kind of like the turtle and the tortoise type of thing, right? But really, I just think they're pretty cool, and that's why I decided to put them at number 5. 4. Number 4 are the chimneys located at numerous undead locations such as Tarn Mill, Brill, and the Undead Landing in Howling Fjord. And the pollution from these chimneys is actually coming from numerous cauldrons that just hang in the buildings for the undead, and you can see there's various colors of something in the cauldrons, and they're just releasing this steam or toxic fume or gas, whatever it is, it's floating up and then exiting the building out of this little chimney style structure that they have on the top of the building, which I guess would just be a chimney. I don't know why I said it's like it's a chimney style structure of sorts. It's like it's literally a chimney. I don't know why I'm saying that. Besides the point, I think this chimney's pretty cool, and they all have the same color smoke coming out of the chimney, which I wish they had like different colors out of each one, or maybe the colors would change. That would be kind of cool because of all the cauldron smoke. Maybe all the cauldron smoke is just combining to make a weird brown color. I have no idea, but I think it's pretty cool, and so that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the bamboo chimney located at the Storm Stout Brewery in the Valley of the Four Winds. And this is exactly what I was looking for from Pandaria, because I was looking all over and I was like, there's got to be some chimneys here, and I couldn't really find any, although maybe I just missed out. Maybe I completely missed a really cool one. If I did, let me know. But I saw this one and I was like, dude, it's a bamboo chimney. That's awesome. And so one of the cool parts is if you go inside the brewery, you can actually find where the chimney stems from. And it's this big, large barrel, and then it's got the top part, which is the chimney coming out of it, and it just goes right up into the roof. And that's it. That's where the chimney comes from. And I was curious as to what is actually coming out of the chimney. Like, is it just steam? Because that's like the only thing I could think of when you're making beer, right? And so it appears that you would fill a big brew kettle with a bunch of water and steep your grains, and then you bring those to a boil. And so that's the point where I think that's probably what's occurring here, is they're bringing the beer to a boil in this barrel. I guess, listen, I'm not a brew master, but that seems to be the only part of the process that I could find. If you're a brewmaster, let me know in the comments section, not just like a talent tree, but like an actual person that knows how to make beer. Let me know what you would think is coming out of this barrel. But whatever it is, the chimney's really cool, and so that's why the bamboo chimney is number 3. 2. Number 2 are the chimneys located in the Freywold village in the Isle of Dorn and Gundargaz in the Ringing Deeps, which sounds very much like it's out of Middle-earth. And I combine these chimneys because they are the exact same chimneys. They have the same structure, they have the same symbols, but they have different types of smoke coming out of them. The ones in the Ringing Deeps have this thick, heavy black smoke coming out of them, which you would expect from, you know, fireplaces and forges and stuff like that. But the ones in the Isle of Dorn have this whimsical sort of white mist steam smoke coming out of them, which I do think it looks cool, but they have a lot of similar fireplaces and stuff like that, so I'm confused as to why the smoke is different, you know what I mean? In fact, one of the chimneys that you can see right here is attached to this area where there's like nothing that would be creating that smoke, so unless it's the torch, but plenty of places have torches that don't need chimneys. But you know what? The chimney looks cool. And that's really the reason that I put them here. I think it's cool that these underground establishments have these chimneys that kind of just burrow up through the ground or in the mountains, and in the mountains. The smoke being different actually is kind of a pointless thing, so it fits perfectly into this list, and that's why I put them at number 2. 1. And number 1 are the Winterpelt Furbolg chimneys located in the Azur Span in the Dragon Isles. And when I did top 10 Furbolgs a few weeks back, I saw these chimneys and I was like, dude, this is going to be in pointless top 10 chimneys. And the more I thought about it, I was like, these are probably number 1. I'm a sucker for natural types of buildings, so the fact that the chimney is literally made out of the log that also makes the house, that like completely sold it for me. Now, I don't know how safe this chimney is. I don't know if it has flue liners or smoke chambers or clean out openings or spark arresters or chimney caps. It definitely doesn't have a chimney cap. However, doesn't matter. It looks cool and it gets the job done. You think these furbolgs care about safety measures like flue liners and spark arresters? Nah, dude. If this burns down, they'll just go get another tree. Whatever. And it's also just a very cozy aesthetic, right? Like it's snow raining outside. You got all the snow on top of the roof, and then you've just got the smoke coming out of the chimney as they're all warmed up by the fire. And I'm sure they're warm inside. Can't actually see inside, but I'm sure they're very warm in there. And so it's just great. And that's why I had to put them at number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Pygmy Owls, and the Pygmy Owls are located at the Whispering Bluffs in Val'Sharah. And they're pretty much what you would imagine. They are small owls, and the word pygmy, according to Wikipedia, has its roots in the Greek word pygmeos, which means of the fist, suggesting the small stature of the object in question. Also, the female pygmy owls tend to be bigger than the male pygmy owls. So there you go, some fun real-life pygmy owl facts. But in World of Warcraft, I imagine the pygmy owls are pretty much all the same. They just fly around, and they are part of a quest where these two night elves are like, aren't these little birds just precious? If we don't help them, they're in danger of being wiped out. And the owls of this grove are in grave danger from a murderous vulture known as Gorbeak. Tyrus and I plan to lure the beast down from its lair. We must slay him to restore balance to the forest, but we could use all the help we can get. So then you lure Gorbeak down and you kill him, and all the pygmy owls are happy. You even get your own pygmy owl pet for doing this, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, how can you not like pygmy owls? They're just smaller owls. So that's why pygmy owls are number 10. 9. Number 9 are the owls located in Teldrassil, and these are actually called the Strigid Owls, and they are neutral level 5 to 6 owls specifically in Teldrassil. In fact, they're the first tameable owl in the game. And you might remember this quest if you leveled a Night Elf and you had to do Zen's bidding, which is where you bring Zen Foulhoof, 2 Night Saber Fangs, 2 Webwood Spider Silk, and 2 Strigid Owl Feathers. And one interesting fact is in patch 1.3, which is back in March of 2005, they actually increased the drop rate of eggs on these owls. And I imagine that had to be for cooking or something. Maybe people just didn't have enough eggs for their recipes, or it was just really hard to get. I know in Horde, you had Plain Striders, so I imagine they were dropping a lot of eggs, but maybe you didn't really have that for the Night Elf areas, so they just upped the drop rate of eggs on the owls. I don't know. I think that's what it is. But yeah, these are probably nostalgic owls for a lot of people, especially if you leveled a Night Elf. And have another owl fact, which is owls can rotate their necks 270 degrees. While it is a common misconception owls can rotate their heads 360 degrees, they are capable of turning their head 270 degrees in either direction. This flexibility helps them look around since their eyes are fixed in their sockets. So look at that. I was one of the people that thought they could turn their head 360 degrees, but I guess it's just 270, which is still pretty good. And the Strigid Owls are also pretty good. Get it, Owlso? Sorry. That's why they're number 9. 8. Number 8 is Cal, and Cal is an owl that is the companion of Silgrin in Suramar. And if you don't know who Silgrin is, he is a Nightborn spell fencer or swordsman located patrolling the outskirts of Suramar City. And you can even find Silgrin and Cal aboard the Vindicar later in the game on Argus. But yeah, I decided to put Cal here for a few reasons. Number 1 is I think they look cool. They got kind of whitish gray feathers, and they've got these big, I don't even know if those are just eyebrows. They look like eyebrows. They're like some of the biggest eyebrows I've seen. They almost look like horns. And then they got these glowy yellow eyes as well. And then number 2, I think it's cool that Cal is just following him around as he's patrolling, right? Like his owl buddy is just hanging there with him, scouting out. You can even see at this point, he like flies off almost like to scout ahead or something. At times he is kind of clipping through Silgrin, so that's a little weird, but you know, that's just your classic World of Warcraft experience. And I mean, really, there's only a handful of people that have an owl pet in the game, and so that's why I decided to put Cal at number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Charming Courier Mount, and the Charming Courier Mount is an owl mount that kind of has some dragon-esque features to it. It has like some dragon horns and little dragon-type scales, and then it's got a lot of ice blue features, so the actual description says, neither snow nor rain nor heat nor gloom of night stays these charming couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. And I really love this mount. Like, I love the colors, I love the features. I think it's just a cool looking owl, a cool looking mount. It genuinely is really neat. And there's a lot of store mounts where I'm like, you know, it's kind of whatever. But this is one of the mounts that I actually like quite a bit. Also, let's get some more owl facts in here. So owls are covered in extremely soft feathers that provide insulation during cold winter weather. Their feathers allow for silent flight and the ability to strike quietly in pursuit of prey, which includes animals several times heavier than themselves. And speaking of prey, owls swallow their prey whole or in large pieces, but cannot digest fur, teeth, bones, or feathers. These pieces are regurgitated typically once a day in the form of a pellet. Dude, could you imagine the pellets this mount coughs up? Like, it could eat some big animals and it would probably cough up some massive pellets. Either way, that's why the charming courier is number 7. 6. Number 6 are the stewards, and the stewards are owl-like beings native to Bastion in the Shadowlands. And even though there were so many things that were terrible in Shadowlands, I think stewards were one of the good things to come out of Shadowlands. Like, who doesn't love these buff owl creatures? In fact, they're supposed to be the servants to all the, what do you call them? Kyrians or whatever, but like, I think I'd rather hang out with the owls. Like, the owls are just cool, they're goofy, they're getting stuff done. Like, look at this, all these owls are just stacked on top of each other trying to help the one at the top water the plants. Like, they're working together, and then all the other Kyrian dudes are just like sitting around like, whatever. Like, they suck. In fact, I think it'd be pretty cool if one of the new allied races at some point ended up being stewards. And sure, it probably makes no sense lore-wise, but neither did the rest of Shadowlands, so who cares? In fact, that makes me think I should do a pointless top 10 races that should be allied races. That would actually be a good video. And then if you're watching this down the line, it might be a thing already, and you could just look it up on YouTube. Wow. Either way, that's why the stewards are number 6. 5. Number 5 is Kwanzu, or Kanzu? I think it's Kwanzu, but they are a Somnow Loa located in the Whirlwing Basin in the Emerald Dream. And there's actually a large variety of Somnows all over the Emerald Dream, and they are notable for their ears, brows of varying shapes, tails of varying lengths, and 2 shapes of antlers. But I decided to go with Kwanzu to represent all the Somnows because she is the Somnow Loa, and she just looks pretty cool. She's got kind of like this bluish purple glow to her. I don't think she's actually glowing, but it feels like she is. And then she's got this crazy wooden crown, or I guess it's a tiara, and then a really cool wooden necklace. I don't know if it's roots or whatever, and it's got like a bunch of little gems and crystals and flowers all over it. Like, she's just styling it up over here. And the way you end up finding her here, Cenarius is like, go seek out the wild gods and allies within the Emerald Dream. And so Kwanzu is one of these, and you have to answer 100 questions from all these owlkin all over, and you answer like 4 of them, and then she shows up and she's like, dude, all right, like, you weren't gonna actually answer all those questions. Like, are you serious? I just assumed that would make you go away. Next time, I'll raise it to 1,000 questions. And so, yeah, I like Kwanzu. I think she's great, and that's why she's number 5. 4. Number 4 is Dorathur, and Dorathur is a large snowy spirit owl that is the companion of Tyrande Whisperwind. And it was actually kind of hard to find Dorathur in the game because I think a lot of Dorathur's appearances are hidden behind either various quests or cutscenes or a bunch of random other stuff, but I was able to find them in Borealis holding this little scroll. And it says here that in most of Dorathur's in-game appearances, she uses a spirit beast owl model, whereas in the Terror of the Darkshore cinematic, she appears as a white horned owl. And they actually added Dorathur back in Cataclysm to help aid Tyrande if the Horde were to raid and attack Darnassus. And so if you go back on Wowhead and even look up some of these old Dorathur comments, people will be like, I'm so glad she finally has someone to make up for the lack of royal guards. Or I guess for just, you know, making up for the fact that Malfurion just stands there being like, I don't know what's going on. It also seems to be a reference from the Warcraft 3 ability for Tyrande where she could summon an owl, and so I guess they just added her an owl back in Cataclysm. Either way, that's why Dorathur is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Hellhoot, and Hellhoot is an owl located in northern Winterspring. And Hellhoot is part of a quest given by Jeb Guthrie, who says, local legend tells of a mighty owl that circles the mountaintops like death on wings. They named her Deathwing. Soon afterwards, they were told that name was already taken, so they settled on a moniker that evoked a similar sense of horror and dread. Hellhoot. Hellhoot can be found atop the mountain to the southwest of our smoking pit. Silence the internal nocturnal, so we can eat her. So I do think that's pretty funny. I actually think the name Hellhoot is pretty cool. However, according to our owl facts, not all owls hoot. In fact, if you just go and look up some owl sounds, they make some insane noises. Like, there's one owl that's like, rah, like screaming. It's insane. So go check that out when you're not watching Pointless Top 10. I also like that Hellhoot, who is supposed to be like, you know, fire and brimstone and all this stuff, is just in Winterspring. I thought that's a fun little contrasty thing. But either way, that's why Hellhoot is number 3. 2. Number 2 is Alistros the Verdant Keeper, and Alistros is an immense sky talon who is in charge of the Emerald Dragon Shrine's aerial defenses. And Alistros looks awesome. Like, it is this massive jade owl that's just looking over everything, and apparently a sky talon is a type of owl-like emerald bird associated with the Green Dragonflight and the Emerald Dream. When Ysera was asked by Neshera the Garden Keeper to aid in the fight against the Scourge and Dragonblight, she misunderstood, instead telling the defenders of the Emerald Dragon Shrine, including the Sky Talons, to treat those not of the Green Dragonflight as enemies. Which, I don't know how she misunderstood. Were they just like, we need you to fight the Scourge? And she's like, okay, so fight everybody, got it. And they're like, no, wait, like what happened? It also appears that Sky Talons are reborn shortly after being killed. And it is said that the wind created by their wings can soothe a troubled mind, which, dude, I could use some of those Jade Owl winds right now. But yeah, I think Sky Talons are cool, and I think Alistros is cool. Just this massive Jade Owl. Like, how could I not put that on the list? So that's why Alistros is number 2. 1. And number 1 is Hooty, and this is a weird one, which is why it's number 1. So Siren is a night elf that wanders around Dalaran with his pet owl, Hooty. During the Purge of Dalaran, he could actually be found with his owl in the underbelly. But here's the thing, I could not find Siren or Hooty at all. I checked Cataclysm Classic, I checked Retail WoW, and they're supposed to be in the pet shop. So for a while, when I'd go in the pet shop, I did see the Stabled Hunter Pet, and I was like, dude, did they rename Hooty to Stabled Hunter Pet? But then whenever I checked in all these versions, they all had Stabled Hunter Pet. So I'm like, okay, so Hooty must be different than Stabled Hunter Pet, even though it looks exactly the same as Stabled Hunter Pet. And in all the pictures online, it looks like Hooty is in this building. But so I'm like, dude, is this Hooty? Did they rename Hooty to Stabled Hunter Pet? But I guess they didn't. Maybe I just couldn't find Siren. Maybe they're on like some timer where they only appear at like 6 p.m. every day. I have no idea. But on top of all this, Siren is actually a reference to a video and song that was made back in like 2008 by a woman and her husband in honor of his pet owl. However, the owl belonged to the husband's character Flick and not to Siren. So hopefully now you can see why I'm confused. But I was like, you know what? This is perfect for Pointless Top 10, and that's why I put it at number 1. 10. Number 10 is the fireplace in the Horde Inn in Dalaran. It's a pretty cool fireplace, but it's almost like the Horde just took one of those big fire pits they have all over and just put it in a fireplace frame. You know what I mean? And then they just threw a big turkey over it. At least I think it's a turkey. Which, by the way, that is a massive turkey. Look at that thing. That thing is as big as like an orc. Maybe bigger than an orc. I want to see where those turkeys are in the game. Like, has anybody even seen those? I don't even know. Also, somebody like smashed that beer mug over there. Listen, they have some crazy times over here, but either way, I think, you know, it's an all right fireplace. You know, it's a makeshift fireplace, and that's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 is the Blue Recluse. Recluse? I don't know how you say it, but it has the only fireplace I found in Stormwind, unless I'm completely missed one, which is always possible. But the main inn didn't have a fireplace, which I was like, that's kind of weird. So then I found this one, and reading more about it, the Blue Recluse is a tavern in the Mage Quarter of Stormwind City, and apparently it's known around the world for its classy atmosphere. And while not being mentioned by the guards as being one of the most popular inns, it has the most reputation in the entire city. Many hunters come here for a drink, just like Hemet Nessingwary. He came here once and told a story to Flint Broadshot of how he found himself guarding 3 Frostsaber cubs from unscrupulous human hunters in Winterspring, which earned him his fame. Thazarian, I don't even know. The first Death Knight to rejoin the Alliance also came here to have an ale as soon as he spoke with King Varian. So wow, look at that. Everybody coming to this inn or this tavern to have a drink. Although they're serving up, I guess, rotten meat, apparently. With all the flies flying around it. Also, the fireplace doesn't have a chimney. It's walled off. So maybe everybody's like coming here and having a good time, but they're just getting high off carbon monoxide fumes. Who knows? Either way, that's number 9. 8. Number 8 is the Roasted Ram Fireplace, which is the tavern in Valdrakken that you've probably been inside since, you know, it's new, it's Dragonflight, all that stuff. Unless you're watching this years from now, in which case it's not new. But I think the cool part about this is, I don't know if that's actually ram that's being roasted. I would assume that it is because the name. But it's a different type of fireplace. It's almost like a fire pit. and there's like magical elements involved. You know what I mean? Like the actual hunk of meat is like floating up and down. You've got the two swirling halos of fire kind of helping to roast the meat in different spots as it floats. And then you've got the fire pit down below it. And then the actual framing of the fireplace, which is really cool. It's this giant, you know, kind of dragon mouth looking thing, because you get the two teeth by the panda chef right there. At least I think they're teeth, I would imagine, because, you know, dragons. So I just said imagine dragon. Okay, I'm sorry. Either way, I think this is a cool fire pit place, whatever you want to call it. But having said all that, I do think this fireplace is a little too unconventional or simplistic for me. I don't know why. It feels that way. I mean, maybe on someone else's list this would be higher, but I was like, hey, you know what? I think this is, you know, probably around 7 or 8. So I decided to put it at 8. And, you know, it's still a good fireplace, don't get me wrong, but I think there are some better ones. So that's number 8. 7. Number 7 is the fireplace in the Alliance Garrison. One of the good things to actually come from garrisons. It's a pretty nice fireplace. You know, it's a nice cozy room. You got the windows on each side. You got the big Alliance shield up on the mantle with a couple pictures or framed things. And the stones are really cool all around it. Like, it's a really nice, cozy fireplace. My only kind of gripe with it is it does have that same thing I mentioned earlier with the Horde, where it feels like the Alliance just took a bonfire and put it in the fireplace instead of kind of, you know, throwing a bunch of logs in there. But that's like kind of nitpicking it, you know. It's still a fireplace, right? But overall, you know, it's your standard cozy fireplace with some cool framing outside of it, and I think it's neat, but there's not much else to be said about it. So that's number 7. 6. Number 6 is the Borealis fireplace, and I picked the Borealis fireplace because I think it really does encapsulate the theme and aesthetic of Borealis very well. You know, I mean, for the most part, it's a fireplace, right? You got those big stones, you got the mantle, you got the fire, but you know, you have so many things around it. You have the anchor right above the fireplace. You have the wheel on the wall next to it. You have the fish on the wall next to it. You have the little logs. Well, I guess they're normal logs, not really little logs. The normal logs with the fire tongs that you're getting ready to throw another log into the fire, which is a really nice touch. You don't see it a lot of other fireplaces around Azeroth or World of Warcraft, and obviously it's inside of an inn, so it's a very cozy fireplace, because I feel like every time it's inside of an inn, it just has that cozy vibe to it, you know what I mean? And one of the most important things is that it has a chimney. There is an actual area for the smoke to rise up, and nobody in here is getting carbon monoxide poisoning. So there might not be any wacky Hemet Nessingwary stories or Death Knight ales or whatever it was, but you know what? Nobody's gonna die. At least not of carbon monoxide. 5. Number 5 is the Wildhammer Keep fireplace, and I just love the aesthetic of this fireplace. I mean, you're in this big dwarven keep. You've got, you know, a bunch of chairs where they're just sitting around talking. You've got TNT, you've got guns, you've got beer kegs, you've got empty bottles of who knows what. You got anvils with hammers. You got a book. You got lock boxes. You've got these big iron beams that are kind of framing the fireplace with the underground rock style in the background. It's just really cool, man. I love it so much. And then you actually have way up top these animal heads on plaques, like the boars and the deer, and it's just, you know, in this big spacious area. So I just really like the style of this fireplace area and the fireplace itself. And you know, nothing crazy, but I think it's pretty cool. That's why it's number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Goldshire Inn fireplace, or I guess the Lion's Pride Inn fireplace, and this is just a classic. Literally a classic, for it's classic WoW. And I think it's one of the most notorious fireplaces in World of Warcraft. Like, when people think of World of Warcraft fireplaces, I think a lot of minds go right to this one, right? You think, oh, I'm in the Goldshire Inn, that big red brick fireplace, which this is during Winter's Veil, so we got all the stockings up there. You got the, you know, mistletoe, which I never realized is above the Christmas or Winter's Veil NPCs. It's a classic. What else could I say? I mean, I think when the Hearthstone Tavern guy is like, come in and sit by the fire, or whatever he says, I think he's actually just talking about this fire. I mean, you can even see the Hearthstone table right here, so it would add up. The only thing is, if you look inside this fireplace, much like the Blue Recluse or whatever, it is walled off, so there is no chimney. Even if there's a chimney up top, it's fake. No smoke coming out of that. The smoke is all staying in here, and there is carbon monoxide all over this place, which maybe does explain why so many interesting things happen at the Goldshire Inn. And that's number 4. 3. Number 3 is a fireplace that I don't think a lot of people know about. I know I didn't know about it. And it is the Fort Dalen fireplace, which is in the Storm Song Valley, and it's not even lit. So it's a little weird, but it has this big kraken on the mantle of the fireplace, and there's just no logs in it. There's these candlesticks next to it, which are really cool. It's like these 2 krakens holding a candle in each tentacle. And I mean, aesthetically, this fireplace is just awesome. And I would love if this fireplace got lit. I think it would look really cool if it was lit, but I mean, listen, just because it's a fireplace doesn't mean the fire has to be on. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, this is one of the coolest fireplaces, I think, in World of Warcraft. I legit didn't know this existed. All right? Like, I needed to get like 1 or 2 more fireplaces for the list. And I was like, I'm like looking all over, man, and I can't find many fireplaces. And then there was one in another Storm Song Valley place, and I was like, this one's pretty cool in an inn. And then I just flew down here, and I was like, what? This is, oh my god. And the crazy part, there's actually 2 of these. There's one on one side and one on the other. So there's 2 of these crazy Kraken fireplaces, and I couldn't really find any information on it. So if you know any information, or if this is part of like an Alliance quest line I never did or something, let me know, because even the building it's by, look, those big tentacle things right next to it, it's really cool. So that's why it's number 3. 2. Number 2 is this fireplace I found in southern Gilneas that, again, I didn't even really know existed. I guess maybe because I don't level many Worgans, I don't know, but just the fire itself is really cool. It's got this intense kind of glowing effect. The framing of it, there's this cool beast stone thing. I don't know what it is, but it's just a stone beast that frames it. There's cool tapestry up top with the wooden beams. Like, everything about this place is just so aesthetically pleasing and kind of a little bit eerie in a way, but still kind of cozy. I don't know. It's kind of cool. There's skulls on the wall. The cauldron is obviously in there. So I really love this fireplace, and I didn't know where to put it, and it just kept growing on me. And at a point I was like, you know what? This belongs in like the top 5. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to put this at number 2. Cause I mean, I love this fireplace, man. It's so cool. It's so unique. You know, even that art on the wall there, the beach art, I think it is. I don't know what that is. I don't even remember seeing that anywhere. I think that's another kind of unique Worgen-esque piece of art, but I really love this place. I think it's really cool, and I think it's deserving of number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Thunder Brew Distillery in Keranos, because it has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, no, 5 fireplaces. That's right. This place has 5 fireplaces, although I think 2 of them are kind of like similar to the other ones, but it doesn't matter. Because this place has easily the most fireplaces per square inch, I think, in World of Warcraft. It's actually insane. Like, I didn't realize there were so many fireplaces in this one inn. Like, it blew my mind. If you could find another one, tell me, because I don't think there is. But this is just, it's such a cozy place to be with all these fireplaces. You know, obviously you're out in Dunmoreau, it's snowing, it's cold, it's blustery, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna go into the Thunder Brew Distillery and, you know, have a beer, sit by the fire. You know, your choice. You can sit by whichever fire you want, and it really is just the best place for a fireplace. And that's why it's number 1. 10. Number 10 is the food on the tables at the Great Mead Hall, which is the warrior class hall and the throne room for Odin. And I think my favorite thing about the food here is the actual plates and cups and bowls that they're in. They're like these wooden barrel-esque type of bowls and plates, and then the actual food itself is a little weird. There's like a mountain of mushrooms There's like some, what looks like ash. I don't even know what's in there. I guess maybe it's rice or grains. There's a skull with a knife through it. I don't think anybody's eating that, although maybe somebody is. These are crazy Viking dudes. They got cheese. They got some weird shiny looking bread, or it might be steaks. I think maybe that is steaks or some sort of meat, but whatever it is, it looks shiny there. But then at a different part, it looks like there's some less shiny steaks. It might just be the lighting, but either way, then they got some flat looking potatoes that kind of just look like mushrooms. I actually thought they were mushrooms at first. And then they also got big kegs of ale, which this guy's getting very mad at. You know, maybe they ran out, they got to get another one, so he's just upset. But I think the actual feast going on is really cool. I think this room itself is really cool. And I think even though the food itself isn't really that appetizing, there is a lot of it. And it seems like they're enjoying it, so maybe it just tastes good. It just doesn't look that great. Either way, that's why I decided to put it at number 10. 9. Number 9 is the dinner party occurring outside of Darnassus, where they're serving these big blue pieces of cake. I don't know what this is. At first, I thought it was cake, and I was like, wait, is this like meat? It looks like some sort of blueberry dish. I have no idea what this is. I've been trying to figure it out, but I think it's cake or some sort of fruit pie. I don't know. It's it's confusing, but they're serving that, and then they're serving a bunch of just wine and, you know, whatever, alcohol, champagne, whatever that is. But the crazy thing here is that Talen's Sweet Song, who's the one throwing this party, is actually a homunculus. And if you don't know what a homunculus is, it is a type of undead construct that is so lifelike it is to be undetectable even by undead hunting experts such as Lillian Voss. And I mean, listen, for being a homunculus, she's throwing a great party. You know, she's got a whole bunch of drinks out here. You got this crazy food thing that I don't even know how they made it. There's got to be some sort of night elf magic going into that. But everybody seems to be having a great time. But this is one of the situations where it's more about the quality over the quantity of the food, because there's really not that much food here. It's just alcohol and then whatever this pie cake magical thing is. Plus, you don't really see many dinner parties happening in World of Warcraft, and that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 is the food at the Haven Cascades where Greedy Gessie is at. So the whole point here is that you get all this food for Greedy Gessie and then it summons them, and that's that. But the actual food on the tables at the Greedy Gessie area is really cool. I mean, this is the type of food that I would imagine a lot of, you know, night elves and druids would eat. It's a lot of fruit and vegetables, very vegetarian. I mean, you got watermelon slices, you got these different colored carrots, you got mushrooms that look a little better than the ones we just saw earlier. You got tomatoes, celery, grapes, you got your lettuce, you got radishes. Like, they got everything here. They even got instruments. They got a flute and a banjo. And I really like the containers too. They got like rock bowls and pitchers, and it's really just a nice area. And when I saw this, I was like, you know what? This would be a really nice thing to add to pointless top 10 food on tables, because I don't think there's many like this. There's a lot of big feasts and crazy stuff, but there's never really a nice little vegetarian feast. I don't know, but either way, Greedy Gessie just wants to eat it. I don't know why they're so greedy. Maybe they just give the bear like a couple watermelon slices and a carrot and it wants more. I don't know. Maybe they're not feeding Gessie enough. Maybe Gessie's not that greedy. Who knows? Either way, this is number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Karazhan Banquet Hall food. And the Karazhan Banquet Hall food is a little outdated, but it actually, I think, holds up pretty well. You've got this boar with an orange in its mouth and all the oranges all around it. I actually like the way the oranges look here, even if some of them look almost like sushi. It almost looks like an orange roll, like a literal sushi roll with an orange in it, right? Do you see? I think it's just the shape and how weird it looks. That's all I can see when I look at it. But you've got fish on a platter that also has oranges. They really just must have a surplus of oranges here. They got turkey legs, they got bananas and fruit like pears and apples. They got wine, although that is some bright red orange wine. That wouldn't surprise me if that's orange wine on top of it. This place is just citrus central. And then there's this guy who I think ate a little too fast and choked to death, but surprisingly, he didn't choke on an orange. So that's a little weird. But I really do love the aesthetic of this place. I love the big stained glass windows with the light shining in. We really need to do a pointless top 10 stained glass windows, honestly, or even just windows in general. But I feel like stained glass windows could be their own thing. Overall, love the aesthetic of Karazhan, love the food on these tables, love the big tablecloths and everything about it, and the oranges, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is the food on the tables in Dalaran, specifically the Legion Dalaran. And I was going to find some specific places, but I really just love so much stuff within Dalaran. So starting here, we have this like little cafe, and they have coffee and cupcakes, and they got wine. You got candles and books, although you're not really eating candles and books, but who knows? Maybe they're edible. We don't know. Have you tried eating them? That's what I thought. They have like a coffee espresso machine. Then if you go to the crazy wine and cheese place across the street, they got a bunch of crazy wine and cheeses. Who would have guessed? In fact, I think they got some of the widest variety of cheeses in World of Warcraft that I've seen. And those wine bottles with the cool inscriptions on them. And then over at the Horde Inn, they got a bunch of ribs, and they got steaks, and they got a plain strider, whatever, cooking in the background. And they got... apparently they stole that boar from Karazhan with some of the oranges. I mean, I really love just all the food that you can see on tables in Dalaran. Like, it really is just such a great contrast of all the different foods. And it's really just fun to go around and look at all of them. I would honestly recommend going and doing it for yourself. Because, I mean, obviously you can see them all in the video, but it's really fun, especially if you're somebody that enjoys the aesthetics and art of World of Warcraft, to just walk around and look at all the little things like the food on the tables. And that's why New Dalaran is number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Artisan Market in Valdrakken, and I love this place because I guess you could say the market aesthetic is very cool to me, and the way the food is laid out here is just really cool. You have the Cheese Dragon, who's actually from Pointless Top 10 Food Vendors, if you haven't seen that. But you have the Cheese Dragon with all his different cheeses here. You have the fish section with all the fish and the shrimp and the seafood. And you've got the roasts, and you have these dragon fruits and melons, and you have this floating fountain table of bread and things. I don't know what those are. And you got ribs, and you got eggs. So some of the food we've actually seen quite a bit before, but I really just like the way that it's presented on these tables. Or I guess some of them aren't even tables. They're like kiosk type thing. Whatever. I'm counting them as tables, all right? I'm not being picky. This is a pointless list. It's a pointless series. It's a pointless everything, all right? I can do what I want. Anyway, that's why the food on the tables in the Artisan Market is number 5. 4. Number 4 is the food at Mistfall Village, and I didn't expect to find this much food at Mistfall Village. I thought it was going to be somewhere in like Valley of the Four Winds, but they have like numerous noodles. They got salmon. They got fried rice in Chinese takeout containers, which is kind of weird for World of Warcraft. They got an actual fish sandwich with like glowy-eyed fish on plates. They got fish hanging up on hooks. They got seafood in cages and buckets. Dude, this place has so much stuff. They got burgers. They got full slabs of ribs. They got big chunks of meat. They got steak. They got bags of rice. They got tea. They got watermelon slices. They got bread. They got dumplings. They got cans of soda or sparkling water, which I don't know how they carbonate it. Maybe they just use magic. I don't know, gnomish engineering or something, goblin engineering. But this place is probably one of the best places to eat in World of Warcraft. Like, no doubt. It's got so much food, so much variety, a great aesthetic, and I just love it here. And that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the reason that this Pointless Top 10 actually got uploaded a day late, and that is the Pilgrim's Bounty, because Pilgrim's Bounty didn't happen until Sunday, and normally I put these up on Saturday night, so I had to wait a little bit to show all the food on the tables at the Pilgrim's Bounty, but I think it's very worth it because it's got some of the best food. I mean, this is one of the events where it's all about cooking and eating and food fights and turkey hunting and all this stuff. You've got the spice bread stuffing, you've got the pumpkin pie, you got the cranberry chutney, you have the candied sweet potatoes, and you have the slow roasted turkey, and it's just all presented in a visually appealing fashion, I would say. I also love that there's just a giant axe that is being used to cut the turkey, and it's not even just at a local place. It's not like, oh, Durotar did that. They're all orcs. Like, literally everybody, like in the Undead place, they've done it. In Thunderbluff, like Dunmurrow, everybody just loves cutting stuff with axes, apparently. But honestly, my favorite thing on the table is the cornucopia, which is the big horn-looking thing, and it is apparently a symbol of plenty consisting of a goat's horn overflowing with flowers, fruit, and corn. Overall, love this stuff. Every year, I always look forward to at least doing this once, right? Just eating all the food, getting the buff, doing all the little things, and that's why the Pilgrim's Bounty tables are number 3. 2. Number 2 is the Taste of Zandalar, which is in the port of Zuldazar. And, you know, they've got some tortillas. They got some stuff you can put on the tortillas, which is pretty cool. But that's not what this is about. This is about the giant pieces of meat that are just over the fire and these giant eggs that have been cracked into these big frying pans. These are probably some of my favorite food. I guess these aren't really tables. Some of it's like a pan or Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's close enough, right? Like, just the fact that there is this giant egg. This egg might be as big as a gnome's head. Like, it's gigantic, right? There's like some trolls sitting on the floor eating meat. There's some trolls cooking with the tortillas and stuff like that. But the big story right here is the giant pieces of meat. I mean, that's a dinosaur leg. You look at that right there. That is a dinosaur leg, and that is a big dinosaur steak. They also just left the shell laying there. I don't know if that's very sanitary, but hey, you know what? I'm just here to look around. I'm not here to be the food inspector. Well, I kind of am inspecting the food, but not in that way. So overall, I really just love how unique this area is and how unique the food is compared to the rest of the stuff we've looked at. And that's why it's number 2. And number 1 is Borealis, and specifically the Tradewinds Market and Hook Point in Borealis, because they've got some of the best displays of food that I think are in World of Warcraft. You've got a wide variety of produce like corn and tomatoes and cabbage. You've got a bunch of different grains. You've got bread and cheese and apples. You've got peaches. You've got sausages and hanging pigs, which is a little crazy, but you know, it's realistic. You've got eggs and a chicken coop. They got the fish market where they actually toss the fish to each other, which I think is awesome. It's actually one of the reasons that I love this the most. I love the interaction. I know there's that like Seattle fish market that does that too. And there's a ton of different colored fish, and they're all on the ice, and they got the big chunks of ice there. I really just love the aesthetic of this place. I love the way the food looks, and it gives me the best vibes. And that's why I put it at number 1, because I really do think if I had to pick one place to eat here with the food on the tables, it would be Borealis. And that's why it's number 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists of the pointless things, while we flying by Pointless Statue in Booty Bay, because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 are the Flaming Goat Skull Lanterns located in the Jade Forest next to a bunch of hosen. And one of the reasons I love these lanterns is just how unique they are. Like, you don't really come across many other skull lanterns in the game, and I love the way they look. They got the fire coming out of the top and the eyes are glowing. It's just a really cool lantern. And it's also a lantern that you don't really see very often in the game. Like, the only place I've seen this is this random hosen camp in the Jade Forest, so it's not something you come across very often. And I'm not gonna lie, I typically try to do a cooler type of thing at number 10, even if I might consider it number like 5, because I like somebody watching the video for the first time to see a really cool thing right off the bat. So you might say that number 10 is actually a lie, but it doesn't really matter. This is a pointless list. It's a pointless top 10. It's not about the order of the things on the list. It's about the things themselves. Listen, I don't know. Somebody's gonna be like, Crendor's a liar. Shut up. That's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Tortollan Lanterns, located at numerous Tortollan areas, such as the Seeker's Vista in Stormsong, the Gloom Hollow in Nazmir, and Seeker's Outpost in Zuldazar. And I really love the glow that these lanterns emit. It's kind of this bluish-greenish aqua glow, and it just pulsates, and I don't know. I find it very relaxing and calming. I think it's really cool. And then they're almost like upside down hourglasses. It looks like there's sand falling to the bottom part, although I don't know if that's actually what's happening, but that's what it reminds me of. Although then there's also a few that look like they're in bowls, or they're just kind of sitting in the water, and they don't really look like they're upside down sand or anything. They're just kind of glowing bowls. I have no idea how this Tortollan lantern wizardry works. I just know they figured out a way to make it work. I also love the sticks that a lot of the lanterns are attached to. I don't know what type of wood that is. Is that like a sandalwood? It's like the type of wood they use for a lot of beach furniture and stuff like that. Somebody tell me what that wood's called, because I actually think it's pretty cool. Just like these lanterns. And so that's why the Tortollan Lanterns are number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Booty Bay Lanterns. And the Booty Bay Lanterns are literally all over Booty Bay. You can find them on random barrels. You can find them in the inn. You can find them hanging on the ceiling. Like, they're literally all over. And I love these lanterns because even though they're not the craziest, flashiest lanterns, they're the most durable lanterns. Like, this is the type of lantern you would carry into a cave, because you're like, if I drop this thing, it's not breaking, right? This thing's made out of like metal and shit. It is phenomenal. And it's also got this classic WoW vibe to it. You know, it's got that old low polygon type of vibe where there's not a lot of rounded edges, just very jagged, and The actual lantern part is like wallpapered onto the lantern. I don't know, but there's something really cozy and nostalgic about that as well. Probably because it brings me back to the early 2000s of playing, 2005 World of Warcraft, you know what I mean? But on top of that, it actually really fits the setting of Booty Bay, and so that's why I decided to put these lanterns at number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Gilneas lanterns, and these lanterns are, as you can imagine, located all over Gilneas. And what I like about these lanterns is they're just kind of basic, right? Like they're just candles inside of a container thing, but I love the glow that they give off. I love the, I don't know what you'd call the actual container, like a vase or I guess you could just call it a container. I don't know. Never mind. I looked it up and it's called a globe. It says here that the glass form that enclosed the combustion chamber of the lantern is called a globe. Globe is in like the earth that spins around on a little thing, not like glow. I think it kind of sounds like I'm saying glow. Globe. Globe. All right, I'm done saying that. And then it says that the container that holds the lantern fuel is called the fount. So you have the globe and you have the fount. But I guess that's just referring to a glass container. Like, what if it doesn't have a glass container? What if it's some other type of material? I have no idea. Either way, these are really cool. I like these lanterns. They fit the aesthetic of Gilneas, and they're pretty cool. So that's why I decided to put them at number 7. 6. Number 6 are the lanterns located at the Utgard Keep in the Howling Fjord. And I love these lanterns because they have this cool dragon thing that's holding them up. So that is taken into account here when I was considering these lanterns. You got the big dragon head made out of wood, and then it's holding up the chain, which is holding up the lantern. And this is one of those things I just mentioned. Like, what is the outside of this lantern called? There's no glass on this lantern. It's all just metal. So would this big metal part of the lantern be called a globe still, or would it just be something else? I have no idea, but it looks cool, right? Also, the main reason I found these lanterns was because I keep running the Utgard Pinnacle trying to get the blue proto drake, which I'm almost at 500 attempts. By the time I upload this video, I'll probably be over 500 attempts. Easily the most I have farmed a mount in this game. So post a comment down in the comments section for the most amount of attempts you've had farming a mount. I'm hoping that I don't have too many more, but we're already close to 500. So either way, these are cool lanterns, and that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 are the lanterns located all over Valdrakken and the Dragon Isles. And the main reason I love these lanterns is the glass. Like, I love the crystallized glass look. If you look really closely, you can see it's like little ridged pieces of glass that all form this globe that surrounds the flame. I just think that's pretty sick. The flame itself is also really cool. You got the little top part, which kind of reminds me of a roof. It's almost like this lantern has a roof on top of it with little stone markings, and then you've got the little jewelry type of pieces just hanging off those roof bits. So just a really cool, unique lantern, and I think it's something that a lot of people missed while looking around Valdrakken. Also, a quick shout out, honorable mention to the Lunar Festival lanterns, which I thought we didn't record in time for this video because it went away, but then it turns out it's still there in Classic WoW, which I learned today while leveling my hardcore shaman, and these are just some cool festival-looking lanterns. So that's why the Valdrakken and Lunar Festival lanterns are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Night Elf lanterns located at numerous Val'Sharah locations and pretty much a bunch of Night Elf locations throughout the game. And as you can see there, they got this little Hearthstone swirl in the middle of that lantern, and I think that's what's giving off the glow. I just think that looks really cool. The blue and the purple all kind of together, and then the top of the lantern has this kind of roof to it, right? It's got these little leaves on these pieces of wood. And it's a really cool lantern. Like, it's something that looks like it was designed with an artistic style in mind. You know what I mean? Like, some lanterns are like, make it so that it lights up the area, which is the purpose of a lantern. You know, that's a fair enough purpose for it. But this one looks like it actually had some design put into it. You know what I mean? Like the little leaves and the swirls and all the little, parts of it. Like, it just looks really nice. There's also the version of the lantern that's in the Emerald Nightmare area. So it's just very red. It's just a very red version of the lantern, but it still looks cool. It's like a different skin of the lantern. But yeah, I like these lanterns quite a bit. They remind me of almost mini houses in a way. And I like them. So that's why I decided to put them at number 4. 3. Number 3 are the lanterns at the Temple of the White Tiger in the Kunlai Summit. And these are these big, kind of chunky, metallic lanterns that are just hanging all over the temple grounds. And they've got these big flames coming up from the center of the lantern. And they're just They're just really cool lanterns. I know I keep saying that. That's like my favorite word of the day, is just like, these are cool. These are cool. This is cool. But they are cool, all right? Everything is cool. So what if I'm overusing the word? There's also some other lanterns here, but I wasn't really sure if these were actually lanterns. They look more like incense being given off. You know what I mean? They got like some sticks in there, and it looks like a bunch of smells or steam is coming out of here. Maybe it's, I don't know. It just seemed these are more like incense stick type of things, but they're in lantern-esque containers. So I was like, hey, you know what? For this series, that's good enough for me. But yeah, back to the main lanterns. I love the bottom of the lantern. It almost reminds me of an upside down kind of Koopa shell from Mario with the spikes and stuff, like a turtle shell. I don't know. I like these a lot. And so I decided to put them at number 3. Number 2 are the floating lanterns located near the Serpent's Heart in the Jade Forest. And these are also the same lanterns that appeared during the Wanderers Festival, which is located next to the Turtle Beach in the Krasarong Wilds. And they're slowly drifting away from the beach, and pilgrims and celebrants can be seen walking to the beach to place these lanterns in the water and wave them goodbye. And I really just love the simplicity of these lanterns, right? Like, it's just a little candle sitting inside a paper globe, I guess you would call it, right? Even though it's not glass, I'm just gonna call it a globe. And it's just floating on this little boat thing. In fact, there's a few of the lanterns that have been burned by the fire, which I think is pretty sweet. You've got all these little burn marks, and the tops of the lantern have burned down a bit, yet they're still glowing. So I like that little artistic touch they put in there. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's just the simplicity of these lanterns. It's just very peaceful to me. There's also a panda. There's kind of meditating near them. And I don't know. I just think they're very relaxing and peaceful. And I like them a lot. I think they're cool. And they're very unique. I don't see many lanterns like them. So that's why I decided to put them at number 2. And number 1 are the Tuskar lanterns, and these are the most Crendor lanterns you could find in World of Warcraft. They are literally fish that have a candle or something burning inside of them, and they're just glowing. And so the Tuskar use these fish as lanterns all throughout their towns. They also have a few other lanterns that are just kind of more basic glass-shaped lanterns, but nothing compares to these unbelievable fish lanterns. They're just easily one of the most unique lanterns in the game. I don't think anyone else is using fish lanterns. They're just cool. They stand out. There's these otters that are actually looking at the lanterns. I don't even know if that's intended, but a lot of the otters just look like they're actually staring at the lantern or something. I don't know. Maybe they think it's food. Maybe they want to eat the lantern. They also hang the lanterns on the big turtle boats along with the other little glass ball lanterns. So they use a mixture of the lanterns. Maybe they run out of fish and they just want to use the other lanterns to mix it up. But either way, these are the best lanterns in the game. I love these, and that's why I decided to put them at number 1. Number 10 is the stained glass at Castle Denathrius in Revendreth. And there's actually quite a few of these red tinted stained glass windows all over the castle, but the one that I love the most is kind of on the front and center, and it's this big depiction of Denathrius as a stained glass piece of art. I don't know what else you'd call it, but it does look really cool. I will say it feels kind of skinny for Denathrius, you know what I mean? Like, he's a very skinny, shadowy, hooded type of figure here, but then when you actually look at Denathrius' picture, he's like this buff dude, so like, this looks kind of skinny for Denathrius, but hey, you know what? It's a piece of art, right? Who am I to judge? But on top of that, the other windows have some cool stuff. Like, these windows have these little batwing styles on the side, or stylized little things that look like batwings. I don't know if that's what they're going for. I imagine it is, because, you know, we're in Revendreth, and Revendreth has a bunch of bats and gargoyles and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like these windows at Castle Denathrius. I thought they looked really cool, and so I just wanted to put them on the list, and so that's why Castle Denathrius stained glass is number 10. Number 9 is various stained glass located all around Suramar City. Specifically, this one, which if you look up, you'll see it's a bunch of different blues and purples all kind of joined together, and it makes this really cool kaleidoscope type of effect, right? But probably a much more simplistic kaleidoscope. I think a lot of kaleidoscopes have like a bunch of different colors going on, but then all over the rest of Suramar City, there's some more stained glass windows which have very intricate framing, but a lot of the colors are just one or two colors, like an orange and yellow or like a blue. That type of thing. And it actually got me thinking, can you have stained glass that is a singular color, or I guess, slight variations of that color? And you definitely can. I'm looking it up. A lot of stained glass is actually just mosaics and stuff, but there are plenty of stained glass windows that are just one color. So I was like, hey, you know what? It may be pretty simplistic, but it still looks pretty cool. But yeah, I liked a lot of the stained glass all over Suramar City, even if they are somewhat simplistic, but that's why I decided to put them at number 9. 8. Number 8 is the stained glass window at Uther's tomb in the Western Plaguelands. And I actually think this window is really cool. Like, you've got the light shining in, you have all the golds and yellows and oranges being illuminated on the window, and then all the little mosaic fragment pieces kind of coming together all around this big frame. It just looks really nice. I mentioned it before, but I really do love the beams of light shining in, even though it doesn't really have that much to do with the actual window itself, but I just think it looks really cool when you have the beams of light shining in and all the little specks of dust kind of floating around in the light. I just love the way that looks. Also, a little bit of history for you. It says here that stained glass windows made up of colored and painted glass pieces held together by lead strips were especially popular in Europe in the period between 1150 and 1550, when they were a prominent feature of cathedrals and other churches, as well as city halls and homes for the elite. But yeah, as for the Uther's tomb stained glass window, I do wish they had more of them in here. There's only this one and then like a tiny little one right above it. I wish they had like maybe a couple more in here, but that's all right. But either way, that's why I decided to put it at number 8. 7. Number 7 is the stained glass located at the altar of Shatar and the Exarch's Rise in the Shadow Moon Valley. And the first stained glass I want to take a look at here is all of the blue stained glass up above this big dome area. A lot of different shades of blue all over. Kind of reminds me of Suramar that we already looked at, but almost like a Draenei version, right? And then right below that, we have some really cool mosaic types of stained glass where we have somebody writing an Elec. We have a bunch of different symbols. We have one that appears to be one of the Naru. And then we also have a demon-looking one, which could be, you know, Kill Jaden or somebody like that. And then if we go outside, we can also see a similar mosaic stained glass type of thing. And it's also right next to this big floor that appears to be made out of stained glass. I don't know if it actually is. It might just be, you know, normal mosaics, but it looks like it could be stained glass. You know what? For the sake of this series, I'm just going to say that it is. In fact, there's some really cool effects. So here you can kind of see it all lit up like it's got energy flowing from it or something. And then if you fly past it, it almost looks like the light reflects off of it as well. So just some really cool effects right there. But either way, the Draenei got some cool stained glass, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is located at the Warriors Order Hall, and all of the stained glass that we're going to be looking at is specifically located right above Odin sitting at his throne. And I really love the way this one looks. It appears like there's a bunch of warriors marching along, and then above them is this angel that's kind of guiding them along the way. Although I guess that wouldn't be an angel, it'd probably be a Valkyr, which according to this are a type of ascended female Vrykul, and the original Valkyr are warriors of the light created to serve Odin. And then if you look around, there's also some other types of stained glass around here. It looks like one is a religious figure in a hat, and then there's like some angelic wings, and you know, there's some normal stained glass, just plain colored ones, kind of like Suramar. But I thought we'd also learn about the history of how they made stained glass. The process started with them using a drawing and then copying the drawing onto pieces of colored glass using vitreous paint, which is a paint that contains tiny glass particles mixed in a liquid. They then bake the painted glass in a very hot oven to make the paint permanent. After that, they joined the glass together with strips of lead to make a single window. So yeah, that's how they made stained glass, and this stained glass is pretty cool, so that's why it's number 6. 5. Number 5 is the giant stained glass window in Valdrakken with all the various dragons and dragon-esque architecture all over the place. And I knew this one had to be on the list. It is just too cool of a window to not be. I mean, it is gigantic. It's here whenever you would go to Valdrakken and have to, you know, take one of the portals back to the other cities. You would always run into this, or whenever you had to go to the, you know, reputation vendor at the top of the stairs. It's just, it looks really cool. Like there's all the different shades of green and blue and like aqua, and then at the top you have like the red and the yellow and the blue. In fact, I noticed if you get up close to it, it almost looks like dragon scales. That might be my mind just going crazy and seeing what I want to see, but I really do think it looks like when you get up close to the windows, it has this dragon scale type of texture to it. But yeah, overall, I love this stained glass window. I knew I was going to put it on the list. I just didn't know where, and it ended up at number 5. So that's why the Valdrakken stained glass window is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the stained glass windows in Dalaran, and there's actually quite a few stained glass windows in Dalaran, so I picked out a few that I really like, one of which is in this little building here, and it's got this crazy skylight type of stained glass where it almost looks like there's a little flower in the middle and a bunch of different shades of blue, and they're all branching out in different ways. I just think that looks really cool. And then there's these little yellow and orange windows on the sides you can see around the big blue stained glass area, but these windows are also seen throughout Dalaran. You can see them on various buildings and shops all throughout the city. It's almost like a sun, or I think it's supposed to be a sun, but I'm not sure. But I mean, on top of that, there's a variety of stained glass all throughout Dalaran. There's a cool like stained glass axe. There's like various little eyeball windows and different shapes and things like that. Like, you go all around the city and just find a bunch of cool stained glass. But some of my favorite is located in the same room with all the blue stained glass. You have these cool designs of like the sun and an eyeball with some hands or wings, and then you've got like a tree and then a book with some hands going to the book. I really love the way all these look. I don't know why. I just think it's very just aesthetically pleasing. I think they all look really cool. So I wanted to include all of them for this number 4 spot, and that's why Dalaran stained glass is number 4. Number 3 is the stained glass in the Lights Dawn Cathedral in Gilneas. And this is just one of the areas that just stands out to me because of how beautiful it looks with all the various stained glass all around. Like, it reminds me of just an actual real life cathedral with all the different stained glass windows. Like I was mentioning earlier, how so many cathedrals and churches have stained glass. But it just looks so cool when you walk into this place in game and you see all these different windows and the light shining in and all the colors. It looks very serene and peaceful. You can even go on the outside of the church and see various windows from the outside where they're not glowing as much, but they still look pretty neat, right? All the various colors on the windows, and there's a few different types of windows. One's like up on the tower where you can see the same design as the ones on the inside, but just circular. And you know, these might not be the most cool designs for windows, right? With like different characters and things like trees and angels and stuff, but it's still a pretty nice simplistic design and it looks really cool. And so that's why I decided to put the Gilnean stained glass windows at number 3. Number 2 is the Tomb of Sargeras stained glass, and I love how this looks because this is like kind of right when you walk into the raid and you're greeted by this big giant stained glass wall of just various night elves holding up different energy sources, I guess, because this actually did used to be the Temple of Elune. And it says here, once known as the Temple of Elune, a night elven temple dedicated to the goddess Elune, it was sunk into the sea after the Great Sundering and later used to imprison the corpse of the avatar Sargeras, a powerful demon and lord of the Burning Legion. And so, yeah, it is very visible that this used to be the Temple of Elune because of all the night elf, you know, imagery all around in the stained glass. And it really does look beautiful. Like, I love how this looks. It's very aesthetically pleasing to me. And then I love the fact that we also have the Tomb of Sargeras aspect with it, where the window has actually been shattered. You can see up there on the right, there's a hole in it. I also decided to include some of the outside stained glass with the green stained glass windows. I didn't actually know if they were stained glass, but I think they are. It seems like stained glass, and you know what? It's pointless top 10. So even if it is, I'm declaring it stained glass for the purpose of this video. It looks close enough, so I mainly put this on the list for that giant night elf stained glass when you walk in. So that's why it's number 2. And number 1 is the stained glass in Ulduar. And whenever I think of stained glass, I think Ulduar is the first thing I think of because there's so much cool stained glass in this place and so many weird things in here. Like, obviously we have the mermaids and the mermaid king and like these tadpole children. We have stained glass of various old god things. There's like tentacles and, you know, a bunch of like Kraken-esque mouths with numerous eyes and stuff like that. Some of the stained glass has also been shattered and broken throughout Ulduar, which is really cool to see as well. It's just, there's a lot of really cool stuff relating to stained glass in Ulduar on top of the stained glass itself. And so yeah, overall, when I was making this list, when I was looking at all the stained glass, I was like, you know what? I think I just have to put Ulduar at number 1. It's got such a cool variety of stained glass. It's got so much history behind it. And I actually think it's laid out pretty well all throughout Ulduar. I found stained glass in different sections of Ulduar and different hallways. And, you know, obviously it's primarily at the end, but it's really cool. And so that's why I decided to put Ulduar stained glass at number 1. Hey everybody, hopefully you enjoyed this winter holiday compilation of pointless top 10s. If you want more compilations, you could check out 3+ hours of WoW nature facts or 8+ hours of random WoW facts. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay? Okay. See you.